Everybody, welcome to Phonogenics 101, now streaming on every podcast platform out there. I'd like to especially thank my Patreon subscribers, many that are here, because your contribution is actually keeping this hosted forever now. So thank you very much. Thank you to the subscribers. We're about to hit 500 on YouTube. And I want to tell a little story. I was sitting in a coffee shop in January 2000, I believe, and I made a list of I was going to get my Phonogenics 101 podcast started. So I made a list of the 4 artists that were going to be the first season. I wanted to do Joni Mitchell, Madonna, Prince, and Stevie Nicks. And then I made it happen. Like, it actually happened. I emailed the Joni Mitchell website, I think, and Les wrote back to me and said, I have some friends who might be on your podcast. Let me invite you into this group called JMDL. So he invited me. I put a couple posts up, and a couple of you answered those first posts, and we talked about Song to a Seagull. And then it grew and grew and grew, and we went through every single album, and then we went through some albums in 2 episodes.
This couldn't have been in 2000. It had to be more recent.
Or 2020, I meant 2020. I'm so sorry. Yeah. The even number, 2020. So we went through every album, and then we didn't do the live albums, but then Jim said, you have to do the live albums. So did the live albums, and now at the little bottom of the list that I hand wrote, the final episode, the compilations, and live album. Well, compilations, because we already did the live albums. So you already know everybody here. This is the classic panel. We're missing a couple of our regulars, but these are the tried and true Joni fans. Some of us are going to see her next June. Some of us I'm going to try to talk into going to see in June, because I'd love to see everybody, but that may not happen. But does anyone have anything they want to say about the podcast or anything before we go into this final little fun episode? Ruben, you're unmuted though. Oh, there you go.
I just would say this has been such a highlight of my how long we've been doing this, a year.
2 years almost.
I've known a lot of you through the JMDL since, I don't know, I was in college. It was a long time ago. And it's just been really nice to get to know some of you online. I've never done any of the Joni Fests or anything. I feel like I made a bunch of new friends, and with this one common thing that we're all interested in, which I've never had before. So it's been really nice getting to know you all. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, and I feel so lucky to have met you all. Like, it almost feels like I've always known you guys. You know what I mean? It's just like, I'm so thankful that you all accepted me and took me into your Joni world, because I'm going to be sleeping on someone's floor come June. Bob.
Yeah, these have really been great. Of course, most of these cats out here I've known and had Joni Fest and other activities with over the years. So it's been nice to reconnect in this format, which is much cheaper to travel to. And it's been great to revisit these records track by track and talk to really super intelligent folks, really knowledgeable Joni people about them. And bring my knowledge.
Well, thank you, Bob. Covers. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome, Jim. I wasn't talking about you, but what the heck? No, I'm kidding. And to bring my depth of covers knowledge, which is
that was amazing.
Silly, but nope. But it's really interesting. And Joni owning her catalog, a great portion, since she was not a hit maker, a great portion of her wealth is from her publishing. So, I keep telling people, well, yeah, covers are important because that's one of the major ways that she's made so much money.
Right.
So thank you, Jeremy.
No, I loved it. I loved ending every song. And Bob, how many covers did I do? And then a couple times I'd forget and then get my ass kicked. Does anybody else have anything they want to throw out there before? Sue?
Yeah. I completely adore these meetings that we've had. I'm sorry I missed Song to a Seagull. I've been on all of them except for Song to a Seagull. But I really, really love talking about Joni. And, what's really great about being with other Joni fans is that I can just talk as much as I want, and you don't tell me to shut the hell up. It's like I can be as enthusiastic as I want to be about, I really, really consider her music the most beautiful music in the world. Mm-hmm. And, part of my, I guess, quest is to promote it as much as possible And going to Joni tributes like I did this weekend, I have this vision that every little small town in the whole United States will have a group of musicians who once a year will go up and do a Joni Mitchell tribute and spread the joy like I saw on Saturday night in Rochester. The place was packed. They did an incredible, incredible job. All these amazing musicians. They had every instrument I could possibly imagine. And they played like 3 hours straight of Joni Mitchell's music. It was just fantastic. And this thing too, you know, talking about her music and trying to explain to people, you know, that there's so much nuance to everything that she does, and all the incredible people that she's played with, and you know, it's just, you know, you could go on and on. So
I truly believe
hanging out with you guys, of course, you know.
I truly believe that we have left behind something special, because we talked about how the music affected us kind of in real time in our lives. And maybe a group, you know, there's different books out there, but I don't think anyone ever really did it the way we did it. And
yeah, I don't think so. Yeah.
the performances, before we'll go to the performances in a second, but Chris.
Yeah, I just wanted to sort of, you know, glom on to what Sue was saying and just take a look at just the landscape for when we started this and where we are now. And I think early on, I think there was still the sense that Joni Mitchell fans were a rather smallish group, very fervent admirers, but still rather small and esoteric. And I think that because of, and I won't blame it all on all of the spotlight that Brandi Carlile has placed on Joni. I think that there has been a little bit of a sea change with regard to how much and how, with little provocation, Joni Mitchell is taking large headlines now. And I think that that's a wonderful thing. At the same time, it sort of diminishes us a little bit. And I don't know if I'm you know, speaking just for myself, but in some ways I feel like, yeah, well, you know, I was there all those decades when people were rolling their eyes so much that the world was falling off its axis. But, you know, we can, you know, we are of a cloth that she wove a long time ago. And I think that that's something that we can wear those tea stains very well. We may not hold a candle to some of these new interpreters who are going to do amazing covers of her work. And I think that's a wonderful thing, but we kept that candle alive for a very long time. And I think that we all should be really proud of that and very thankful that we had something so wonderful and so difficult still to hold to our hearts. And I just want to say thank you to Joni Mitchell for that.
Yeah. Wow. Now, oh, Mark.
Oh gosh, these have been a great pleasure for me, and it's really wonderful to be able to communicate with some of these people that I've talked to on email for years, for decades now. Some of you I've met. I met Bob once at Ashara's years ago. Michael Paz I met a couple times. But some, like Sue, I communicated with her way back when Wally Breeze still was doing the website. And Chris, I didn't know you were C. Karma on the email. And it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful to connect with all of these people and to be able to gab about Joni Mitchell for 2 or 3 hours is great, you know, especially with these people that are so knowledgeable and so much open and giving, and I've loved it. Thank you, Jeremy, and thank you, Joni.
Wow.
That's it.
Let's talk about the performances throughout the whole series. There's so many that pop out in my mind. Stu, what did you do during Turbulent Indigo? Oh, I think you're muted.
Wow, you're testing my memory.
Did you do Magdalene? No, Chris.
Yes, I did Magdalena Laundries. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I did. That's what I'm pretty sure that's what I did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was when I went back and edited the podcast, because for those that are listening, if you go on YouTube, the original podcast have a bunch of musical performances from all of our friends here, and we did have to take them out of the ones that are on Spotify and all that. But boy, I Dave and Robin's Dog Eat Dog was a highlight. Chris Paprika Plains, all 15, 17 minutes.
Amazing.
Sue, whatever you did you do Sweetbird for Hissing?
I might have, yeah, Sweetbird. I remember doing that song about the Midway on
Oh,
Cloud.
that was your first one that you did,
That
right?
was the first one, yeah. And then let's see. Can't remember. I'm so bad these days. I can't remember anything.
Even when I was editing them, I was trying to remember who did what, and I couldn't remember. Oh, when Les and Jahida did Wolf That Lives in Lindsay, that was a highlight.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. Yeah,
Oh.
really great.
We really went through from the first song, I Had a King, all the way through to If.
Kind of makes you wonder if anybody sort of pushes this in front of folks who are, now surrounding Joni or other, or otherwise working on these jams and saying, you got fans out there who go pretty deep into your catalog.
Right, right.
Right.
I hope so. I hope
It was funny. I sent her a birthday card last year, and I put a flyer in talking about the Phonogenics.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, so she might have seen it. I don't know. I mean,
Joni,
I always wonder whether she actually gets those or not, but I sent it right to her house.
We know she got the cookbook.
She definitely got the cookbook, and she got the her 70th birthday present too.
She got the music box.
She did get that. Was the 70th birthday. Robbie Cavallino told me that she was going to call me, and she never did.
Well, Joni, if you're listening, don't listen to what these people said about Dog Eat Dog. You don't need to hear all that. I'm just kidding. We gave it a fair shake. I think don't listen to what I said about the orchestra albums. And Bob.
Hey, if you're not going to be honest, don't show up.
Oh my gosh. Everyone gave Travelogue like a 10. I'm like 1.
Nobody's more honest than Joni.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I sat out a couple of them. I think I sat out Blue and one of the other ones. I guess it was the live ones. I just didn't, I don't know. I didn't want to sound too critical. It's just not my bag,
Who was it that had never watched Shadows and Light and they were going to go watch it? Chris, did you go watch it? No. Oh, well,
not yet. Still on my playlist.
Let us know when you do. Well, tonight, friends, we're going to talk about this stack that cost me a lot of money. It hardly has anything in this whole stack. There might be 4 songs that we haven't already discussed. But when you go through an artist's recorded career, their compilations and different anthologies are an important part of their discography. Because a lot of times events are around that time in our lives, or, it's a milestone. So we're just going to briefly touch on all these compilations that we spent all this money on. Now, just by a show of hands, who here actually owns some or all of these? Is anyone else a nerdy collector? Oh, okay, so that's about $1,000 in Joni Mitchell's pocket right there. Which I was happy to give. We are gonna have a couple special episodes next year talking about the anthologies, and then or the anthologies, the archives, yeah. So we'll talk about archives 1 and 2 before we make the trek in June, and then when 3 comes out, we'll do a little couple months to let it digest and then talk about that. So the thing I love is that as she keeps putting these out, we will always have a reason to meet for a while. All right. So Joni Mitchell in 1994 won a Grammy for Turbulent Indigo unexpectedly. She was thrust back into, I guess, the positive consciousness of the pop culture world. Would you guys say that's a fair statement? She was kind of in front of the mass public a little bit more than she had been since who knows when. And as a reaction to that, she did a couple things. She remixed Big Yellow Taxi and came out with a maxi single of remixes that aren't that great. And it wasn't on Friends. Wasn't that from Friends or something?
Yep.
I have that over there. I guess I should have brought that over here. And then she released her first. I know there were a couple things in the 70s, but she had her. Of course, Joni Mitchell couldn't just have a hits album. She also had to have the misses. And then I have this little promo item, which was a 1 CD of some of the hits and some of the misses. So, Chris has got that too.
I have that same piece.
Yeah, I did too.
Just as a moment, though, we need to call out the visual pun that is the cover of Hits, which when she was asked for many years, will you ever do a greatest hits album? She said, over my dead body.
Oh! So Norman C. Is that how you say his name? C for C?
Sepp, I think it's Sepp. Norman
Sepp. He took these pictures, and in his book, he said these pictures are from the late 70s. Do you guys think that's accurate? Because she looks like
I don't think it is.
she looks like 95 Joni to me. Well,
There were a couple things, a couple of sets in the book that I felt like were the years were wrong on them.
The cars are mid-70s.
Those are old cars. Yeah. And from
But
this
her
angle, you
bangs-
can't tell. But
were her bangs
I don't
like
wanna
that?
Spend a lot of time on hits and misses.
So the only song that wasn't available on CD before this, of course, was Urge for Going, which was the B-side to You Turn Me On My Radio, a song that was covered by Tom Rush and made popular in the 60s, correct? So that was one of her first songwriting breaks. There's like 30 versions of
The
it.
very first cover, yeah.
Yep.
65.
There's like 30 versions of it on the archives, which we'll talk about next year. Let's just briefly talk about what some of her misses were. These are the songs that she thought should give another chance. Passion Plays, so we have stuff from Night Ride Home. Nothing Can Be Done, more Night Ride. So a lot of her 80s stuff is on here, right? Wolf That Lives in Lindsay.
This is a visual pun too.
Yeah.
Kiss
So
my
I'm-
ass.
This
I'll never-
my ass, I said.
As I threw my drink. Yeah, that's she might have been writing Lead Balloon right when she came out with these. I don't have anything much to say.
I don't think any of these songs are misses. I love them all.
I know. This was a weird random collection. I guess hits charted and misses didn't, right? What do you guys have to say about hits and misses? Do you think it was a good opportunity for her? Or the hands are going up. Bob and then Ruben.
So only a couple of the hits are hits, right? I mean, Joni didn't have hits. Help Me was her only top 10 hit ever.
Right.
And then the rest of them were pretty much songs that were released as singles, but didn't really go anywhere. And, the misses, yeah, Dancing Clown's not there, so her big miss is not there. But,
Excuse me.
those are all fine songs. They're fine songs. But Joni, as we'll see tonight, time and time again, wants to keep reselling her 80s stuff that bombed. She wants to keep reselling it and trying to get people to buy into it. And Mrs. was the first example of that.
Which is ironic because all the 80s were about fighting corporate greed. And what's more greedy than trying to get people to keep buying the same damn song?
Was she still under contract with Geffen at that time in 97?
I think so, yeah.
Well, that could be why.
These are on reprise.
Oh, they are on reprise.
Yeah, Light and Ride Home was the last one on Geffen. Then everything from Turbulent Indigo on was
They
reprise.
are, yes.
Well, Bob, I think you about summed it up. Does anyone else have Ruben? Did you have something to say about hits and misses?
I thought before it came out that Mrs. might be an interesting collection if she was putting together a group of songs that she felt like she had tried and missed instead of, you know what I mean? Like I remember in the notes from the Geffen box set, she was talking about the song Wild Things Run Fast, and she said she was experimenting with writing in short lines, and she said it was an experiment. I failed. That I thought might have been a good thing for Mrs. because it was something she tried that she felt didn't work. But as a collection, Mrs. was just like another set of songs that nobody had heard the first time around, and it didn't have much of a. I couldn't tell why she put those on. Why she put some on there that she did and others that she didn't. Like what was the thought process behind that?
Do you think this was effective in getting those songs to a new audience? Because I would say not at all.
No.
No.
All right, Jim.
I think one of the reasons why she wasn't effective was because she was in a very sarcastic, negative place about the industry. At this time, she was talking about, the industry as a cesspool and stuff like that. And
Right.
so she was not in a positive frame of mind. And the way I remember it, maybe this is partially correct. The way I remember hits and misses was that they asked her yet again to have a hits collection, and she just said, "Oh, okay, fine." And she just scribbled down a bunch of titles and faxed it off and said, "But here are the misses." And she just, like, in an instant gave them both lists. And if you need any proof that Joni was not in a healthy place, that's not Joni.
Right.
To say that she's just going to not take any care with sequencing or a song selection or editing or artwork and just put a picture of her, behind on the cover. She put her behind on the inside of For the Roses, but that was a little different. She was not in a good place, and the work reflects that, I think.
All right.
I think that's a good point. The artwork too. I thought it was cool, but I think she missed a huge opportunity to get these two compilations in record stores with some really eye-catching graphics that people would really respond to. And I think she totally missed the boat on that, even though I thought they were kind of cool, but I was already sold in the first place, so it didn't matter.
Right. All right, we have Mark and then Chris.
Well, for me, the hits CD was worth it because of Urge for Going. I hadn't heard that song before, and I heard it, and my jaw dropped. I thought, this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Why the hell didn't she ever? I mean, it was the flip side of You Turn Me On the Radio, wasn't it? The B side of that single.
Correct.
Yeah.
Kind of ballsy to open your hits album with a B-side.
Well, it's a beautiful song, and the missus, she, I think, said, if you're going to release a greatest hits, you're going to release the missus as well. And like you said, she wanted to get that material out in front of the public again, and it probably didn't work. That's all I got to say.
All right, Kristen and Sue.
Well, with regard to Urge, she was very proud of that song. I think she had if memory serves me, I think she included it, the archives reveals, in her mother's birthday tape that she made for her mother.
Okay.
And I think she even gives a little intro or something. I think you're going to like this song or something. I seem to find that song having a very special place in her heart for many, many years. Anyway, there were songbooks created for both hits and misses. Mm-hmm. And strangely enough, some of what is in these songbooks had never appeared with as much detail in the original songbooks that accompanied their original releases. So they were more detailed. There was actually even a sort of a primer about, Joni's, Joel wrote a little bit about her and the guitar, and Joe Ellen wrote about her and the dulcimer. They go into some great length toward the back with a whole glossary of how to read the guitar tabs and stuff like that. So they were trying. There was an effort here trying to sort of cement a little bit of the legacy with regard to the innovation that she had brought to her instruments,
right?
And how she wrote for them, and both books have the same tablature explanations and forwards. But again, they also had unique artwork with regard to the photography that Norman had done. I think Robbie was also involved in the art direction for for this set of material. Yeah, I actually I have to say a thank you to a name who often goes unannounced. Jim Johansson, who actually took over, was the sort of the continuity person between Wally and Les, who was helping to run JoniMitchell.com during a period when, Joni had kind of checked out. She wasn't, interested at all in this new medium. And the sense was that the management team also wasn't really investing a lot of time.
Wow.
They were kind of starved for content in this period. With Wally was quite a force, and he'd beat the bushes wherever he possibly could. I don't know if Jim had quite the same impetus to try to keep things moving along. He tried his best, but I think that he had his own health issues as well. So it wasn't long before Les took it for real. But anyway, Jim had sent me these as a thank you for something, and I'm very grateful for them.
All right, Sue.
Yeah, a couple of things about the sheet music books. Howard Wright actually worked on the Hits and Misses books too. He did a lot of the dulcimer transcriptions and that whole thing in the back with the chords and everything. I'm pretty sure that was his work. Which Howard is another one of the transcribers at the Guitar and Piano Archive at JoniMitchell.com. Yeah. So Urge for Going was written in 1966. And I think that this version of Urge for Going was recorded during the Blue sessions.
Right. Yeah,
it was supposed to go on to Blue because she had a couple of older songs on Blue, like Little Green. Was also written around the same time as Urge for Going. So that was pretty interesting. But she didn't put it on, and now it doesn't come on until the 90s. It's a really beautiful song. I love her guitar style on that. Yeah, so Hits and Misses, I got it, it was a big, I remember back on the JMDL, we were really happy that they finally put out something like this, but I find the hits is really interesting. There's a lot of blue on it, and stuff. And
right.
but the misses, I think, are even more interesting. What she picked for that. I mean, it was just. I don't think she really thought. I don't think she thought them. She thought the audiences didn't like them, and it's kind of sad in a way because there's so many great songs there. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. And and the other thing I wanted to say about sheet music is that I was talking on one of the Facebook pages yesterday, and they were talking about sheet music books, and I thought, oh my God, the only thing JoniMitchell.com doesn't have yet is a list of the sheet music books. So unfortunately, another task for me to get all that stuff onto the onto the website, because people were saying, which sheet music book do you have? There's hundreds of them. A lot of them from the early years are not very good. They don't have any of the alternate tunings, but some of them are really fantastic. So, and
didn't we decide that there was no official songbook for Dog Eat Dog? That was the only album that didn't have a songbook, right?
Well, yeah, because
there's a couple of pieces from Dog Eat Dog that are correctly tabbed.
Right.
And they also showed up on Incomplete So Far, like the whole album is in there too. But yeah, maybe who knows? I mean, they could have done it. Maybe they just decided not to. I don't really know.
The album's not selling, so why waste the trees?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was probably a money thing. Yeah.
So it's interesting because some other artists, if you go through their discography, even though they have great albums, there's some of their compilations that are also essential. Like as a Madonna fan, I feel the Immaculate Collection is a must listen, or even Fleetwood Mac's greatest hits. I love the full albums, but that was such a huge seller and such a great starting point. I don't feel like any of these Joni Mitchell compilations are essential or even a good starting point for her music.
That's a good point. I never thought about that. You're right.
I think there's one, and it's this one.
We'll get there. But go ahead, Ruben. What were you saying?
I hadn't thought about it like that, but Immaculate Collection is an essential, and that Fleetwood Mac compilation is essential, but hits is not essential.
And even Prince, the hits, the B-sides, like essential. You have to have that disc.
Yeah.
And I feel like you could miss these Joni Mitchell collections and not miss too much.
Yeah.
Oh, Chris is gonna, once we get to Starbucks in the mid 2000s, we may bug to differ. Jim.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that one of the reasons that hits doesn't work, in addition to the artwork, is and Joni's sour attitude. But in addition to those two things, is that they're much better in the context of the album.
She's an album artist.
It sort of breaks my heart to hear anything from Blue taken out of context, because it's just all of a piece. It's like, you know, it's almost blasphemy to pull a song out of the middle of the side 2 of Abbey Road, you know, out of the context of the long one. It doesn't, it doesn't really fall flat. It's just that it leaves you wanting more, you know.
I don't think I ever needed to hear River followed by Chinese Cafe. That's not something I ever needed in my life. All right, Mark.
Well, I remember one of the points that she made about this when hits came out was that a lot of these songs were hits for other people. Like
okay.
Both Sides Now for Judy Collins and Urge for Going for George Hamilton, the 3rd or 4th or 5th or 6th or 7th or whatever the hell he was. And the Circle Game.
Tom Rush.
I don't know. A lot of people recorded that, but and then John Lennon told her, "Oh, Joni, if you want to hit, put some fiddles on it."
Oh, that's right.
But yeah, I don't know that it was necessary to put it out, but obviously the record company wanted her to, and she finally gave in and got the misses out too. So whatever.
I think it found an audience.
You do or don't think it did, Jim?
My memory of it was that after it had been out a year, people said, you know, Joni was reluctant to do this because they thought it would kill her back catalog. And if I remember correctly, it did the opposite. And then people started, there was an uptick in her catalog on CD.
Right.
Does that sound familiar to anybody?
I think so, yeah. All right. So I have nothing else on the hits and misses. Does anybody?
Did either one of them sell very well, hits or misses? Does anybody know?
I'm going to venture a guess that nothing we talk about tonight probably sold that well. But I could be wrong.
I mean, that was back in the day where CDs were CDs, and
yeah,
I don't know you didn't. But now everything's changed so much. I just was curious if his is actually sold.
I feel like hits sold more than misses, if I remember correctly.
Are they still in print? Can you still buy them, like at Amazon or someplace?
I think there's so many used CDs floating out there that I don't think they're rare. I think all these are pretty common.
Yeah.
Hits and misses too.
All right. So Joni then released Taming the Tiger. She was a little saltier on. I feel like she just got salt. The Joni Mitchell meal had more and more salt as the years went by. She then did a couple orchestra albums, Both Sides Now and Travelogue. And then 2003 came along, and we got this, the Geffen Years box set. And I remember it was like $70. It was really expensive. There's like 4 songs on it I didn't have. I'm a completist. So my ass went down to the Record and bought that. And what were the new songs on here? We had a piano version of 2 Gray Rooms that she cut during Wild Things Run Fast.
Speechless.
Yeah, Speechless. We had a piano version of Good Friends, right?
It's All Over Now, Baby Blue.
It's All Over Now, Baby Blue from Night Ride Home, which music sounds like something she ended up using on Turbulent Indigo, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And
Not to blame. Sound like Not to Blame.
And I don't even think there was anything new on Chalk Mark at all.
There's 3 tracks.
She didn't even give us like the Shiny Toys 12-inch, which she could have given us, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point. That should have been on there. You're right.
So basically, It was $25 a song. She's trying once again to give these albums. There was a nice book in here that I think, Chris, did you quote from this book a lot? I feel like someone, when we got to the 80s albums.
I don't own that collection.
Oh, you don't? Was
Mark
it
has
you,
a lot
Ruben?
to say about that box.
Maybe.
I've got it.
I
it's Mark?
might have referred to it. I thought it was a good collection.
So wrong for that.
All right, so we have a lot of people. We have Jim, then Mark, then Sue, and then Bob talking about the Geffen Years 2003 box set. Jim, start it off.
Okay, well, Mark Scott is sort of the scholar on this box set, but I'll steal his thunder a little bit and say that the Speechless was something that was in circulation in the JMDL in an abbreviated form without the strings, if I remember right, and it was kind of circulated quietly by somebody whose name starts with S.
Okay.
And so to get a full taste of it was really it was really awesome for me. And let's see, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, Dog Eat Dog. Dog Eat Dog was transformed by this release. It's just so much clearer, and it doesn't sound like fingernails on a chalkboard. It's easier to hear the textures of the synthesizers, and so it's a much easier listen than originally. And I had it on vinyl, and it still sounded bad originally. So those are the two things I appreciate about the Geffen box.
You know what's going to be interesting is when Rhino gets to their reissues for this. If they do a Geffen Years thing, it's basically already been done with this box set. So, when they get to that, it's going to be interesting. Mark, you're next.
Well, as Jim said, I thought the Dog Eat Dog remaster was great. I mean, I heard things in that record that I had never heard before when I listened to the Geffen box set version of it. I also like the version on there of It's All Over Now, Baby Blue that she does. It's kind of the Night Ride Home era sound, and it's nice. But the remasters were nice, but Dog Eat Dog was the best, and for me it was worth it for that. That's all.
All right, Sue.
Okay, so I never bought this box set, probably because it was too expensive. But I was reading today on the website the liner notes. They were hysterically, dark. It just cracked me up. She was like, it was almost like, it's like, you want me to write liner notes? I'll write liner notes.
Yeah.
So listen to this. He says, so here sprung from the dungeons of Geffen Records, after doing 12 years for failing to be wildly popular, are these 4 parolees.
Oh.
Special thanks to David Geffen for the file and the cake.
I think Rebecca wrote that for her,
I mean, and there's other things in there that are really, really snarky too.
I'm not bitter.
Yeah. She says they're like an old pair of slippers in the back of your closet. They're gathering dust. You don't even know that they're there. Holy shit. What the hell, man? Is she angry or what?
You see, I miss that Joni a little bit. I really do. I kind of loved it when it was happening in real time.
Why didn't it sell?
All right, Bob, you got some things to say.
So yeah, I bought the collection on eBay for like $45. I immediately ripped the 3 tracks to my hard drive. I put it back on eBay, sold it for about $40. It's All Over Now, Baby Blue. I'd had a recording of that. She did it on Murray Laughlin's Swinging on a Star CBC show back in 1990. So that I was familiar with. Of course, the Speechless I was familiar with. I had that. The only thing I really did not have was the Good Friends remix. So that was hardly worth the price of admission.
No.
This is, again, her trying to cram the Geffen stuff on a public that doesn't want it. She was really pissed off. To Sue's point, she was pissed off because for the first time ever, her records had become cut out of the catalog.
Right.
You could no longer buy them. And it was the first time ever. So she got pissed off. And when she tried to buy the masters back, nobody was interested in giving it back to her. They just didn't care, because to them they had no value. So she wrote these really snarky notes that Sue referenced. That's all.
All right, Ruben.
To just go on, I guess, a little bit about it. There's another quote in there, Sue, about how she was signing lithographs for Chocolate Mark in a Rainstorm and getting writer's cramp. And when she found out that the Geffen albums had been dropped from circulation and they were out of print, and how to me, the best part of this box set was the liner notes. There's some snarky stuff, and there's some interesting stuff like the note about the track Wild Things Run Fast and how she considered that a failed experiment. It was this interesting little glimpse into some of those tracks, and that was the first time we'd had anything like that from her, I think.
Right.
And so I appreciated it for that. The 4 unreleased tracks were great. I remember I had not heard Speechless until I bought this box set. I remember just playing it, multiple times that first day and just crying. It was so moving. And it was that alone was worth the price of admission to me. And I also thought it was interesting to just kind of separate those 4 that she felt were kind of misunderstood and underappreciated, and try and get people to pay attention to them after the fact. I thought that was kind of cool. It probably didn't work, but
her liner notes reminded me a little bit of another essential greatest hits compilation to me is Stevie Nicks' Time Space.
Mhm.
It's great remastering. Her liner notes were wonderful, and Joni's liner notes kind of reminded me of how Stevie gave a glimpse on the other side of the mirror, if you're talking Stevie Nicks language.
Kate Bush's The Whole Story is really good too.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one too.
That's an essential compilation.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Chris.
What is the current state of the who owns those masters? Does Joni own those masters now?
Joni does.
She does. And she bought them back from Geffen Records, or when Geffen left Warner, they reverted to her, or does anybody know how?
Didn't she just ask for him back and he just gave him? I could be
I
wrong.
don't think David Geffen ever gave anything up for free.
Except to a male escort somewhere. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I think she just badgered whoever it was into giving them to her.
Well, I may have to go back to Discogs and try to get this, if only to get the Dog Eat Dog. That's an album that I actually like quite a lot. So for me to hear something new in it, I would really relish that. Thanks for warning me about it.
I don't have the best ear for sound as far as like crispness and stuff, so I didn't notice a difference. So I'm kind of from a punk background. Like, put something on a shitty cassette that sounds just as good to me as like the crystal clear remaster. So I'm gonna go back and listen to this, and I hope I hear something new, because I do love it.
Like Jim said, it was a lot clearer. There was a lot more depth to it. You could hear a lot of the detail that was in there. And it's almost not quite like listening to a whole different record, but it's like, oh my God, this is how it's supposed to sound.
You can really hear those coils turning and smoking. Try another, right, in the cigarette machine.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right, my favorite is how like those vocals she does. Okay, do we have anything else on the $8,000 Geffen box set?
I have one question, and this is also even for hits and misses. Anybody familiar enough with any of the layout? Well, actually, this is more actually for hits and misses. Is there any one particular segue, a joint between two songs that somehow is revelatory?
It blows your mind?
Yeah.
No.
Not on any of these.
No. All the revelatory transitions come later on the songs of a Prairie Girl.
All right, so next, if we're going chronologically, Jim, do you want to talk about the Woman of Heart and Mind DVD just a little bit? Because you had some great things to say, and let's just do a little segue with this one, because I think it's worth mentioning. And welcome, Paz. It's good to see you, friend.
And Michael is he's off the road now. He was doing a salute to Night Ride Home there for a second.
Yeah, he sure was.
I want to talk. Yeah, I do want to talk about this. This is National Public Radio here in the United States of America, made for the world a salute to Joni Mitchell, and it was a number of series. One of a series that they were doing back then, and one of the executive producers was a woman named Susan Lacey, and she was among the three executive producers of this film. I'll call it that. And one of her duties was to choose someone to direct each of the films. And she pulled rank on everybody and decided she was going to direct it herself. She also wrote it, produced it, and is one of the three executive directors, as I said. So she's telling the story of Joni and sometimes using audio from some interviews. And she even worked in some of this session where Joni's skating in a costume of a black crow.
Okay.
And but the director Susan Lacey held it back until it fit beautifully into one of the stories that Joni's famous for telling, and that's that her grandmother wanted to play piano. She had an ambition to play, and she used to practice playing piano on a tabletop, if I remember right. She had the black and white keys labeled on the table, and she was denied a piano. And when she realized she would never have a piano in her life, according to Joni, the legend says that she kicked the door off its hinges. And so Joni grew up thinking of herself as a painter and then a composer and a songwriter to distinguish her performances from other people. And then, the fame started to gather and all that stuff. And she was dating Graham Nash, and they were very serious for a while. And Graham asked her to marry him. And Joni thought about it. And at that moment, Susan Lacey, the director, flipped the video and showed Joni skating away on a river, like we saw in Hejira. And as Joni on the audio is saying, I thought, wait a minute, Joni in the video turns toward the camera. And there's, if I remember right, it's a freeze frame where Joni's looking over her shoulder and she said, I thought, wait a minute, what if I'm the one who got the gene that makes a musical career happen for my grandmother? And so she decided not to marry him. Anyway, that's one of the gems on this collection. And there are a lot of people talking about Joni and her importance and all that. There's one more scene in there that's very memorable for me. And that's about 2/3 of the way through, one of the music critics said that before Joni came along, go away, Simon. Before Joni came along, there was a myth in rock music that about the California girl with long blonde hair, and she was kind of an Earth mother. And he says, and then suddenly here was Joni. She was all that. She was the California girl, transplant, but close enough. She had long blonde hair, and not only that, but she was creating the songs and singing the songs. And he said that was a very important myth for some people, for a lot of people. He said an awful lot of people felt like that woman, by the light coming off this turntable, is looking into my soul. I'm out.
All right, Chris.
I didn't have much to add to any of that, but I have this I just found. I had seen The Woman of Heart and Mind on PBS when they ran it, and I, at some point, bought this 2 DVD set, which has both Woman of Heart and Mind and Painting with Words and Music. Right. So it might be out there. So hit Discogs and see what you can find if you're missing these, because these are both tremendous. I remember going to Colony Records and selling at least 2 of the painting with words and music. Basically dragging people in the aisles over to to where they were and saying, "You've got to see her sing Trouble Man. You've got to see this." But yeah, I thought this was probably one of the best biographical films I've ever seen done for anybody. I was really, really happy with the way that they treated. Now, Susan Lacey is the name you remember for it. But was this the Allison Andrews film though too? For some reason, I connect that name with it.
I'm gonna revisit it for sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but I saw the name Susan Lacey 3 times on the back.
Right.
And I don't see the other name back here at all. But
Right.
The other one's important too. I don't know how. Maybe we'll Google it later.
Right.
All right, so Paz is about to make his first appearance in this discussion. Welcome, Paz. Oh, you're muted though. So
Maybe unmute, bud.
Sorry. Oh my God, I've been listening to y'all for the past 35 minutes on my way home. I was with
Mighty
the
sympathy.
boys and my grandson. We had a stellar dinner. Been enjoying the conversation as always. It's interesting when you can't say anything because for whatever reason I could not unmute myself on the drive home. And kind of thankfully, because I got through a half an hour of listening to y'all talk about Joni Mitchell and her music. And my comment is a lot of your observations seem to me to be about the record company.
Mm.
And she fought them all of her life. On the other hand, I mean, I think she got control, but I've got a new artist that I'm working with right now. And while she's brilliant and she's in control, she's not in control.
right.
There's stuff that goes on that's beyond you that just happens. And especially when it comes to marketing and all the other bullshit that goes with artistry.
Yep.
Which is what we're talking about when we talk about Joni Mitchell, right? So that's my early contribution. I love all of her music as always. I called Sue today. I called Les today, trying to catch up with a couple of people before I called Chris. I called you too, didn't I? Called you.
I was in the shopping.
And he was shopping. He was shopping.
I was in the frozen foods.
So I will tell you this. Look, I'm still learning about this industry, and I continue to love the industry. I continue to love music. I'll never ever lose that. I may discontinue to love the industry, like somebody that we're talking about maybe doesn't like the industry as much, but
Especially during this era.
but she continues to take advantage of the industry for her benefit.
Perils of benefactors.
Right. And now that we know that there's heirs, that maybe she's looking out for them. But I just will say this: it's a complicated industry, and God, I reacted to something that Bob said in an email about responding to this, and I agree with him wholly that, oh my God, they've released so many compilations and stuff, reissues of stuff. And so the Geffen thing that y'all were talking about, I really kind of loved it for whatever reason. And I don't know, I can't remember if I bought a copy or if a copy came in the mail because somebody gave it to me, whether it was a record company or whatever. But it's one of the ones I treasure because it does have the instrumental version of Two Gray Rooms, which I treasure. And I love that song, and I continue to love her. And may I say, oh my God, we're going to see Joni in June, motherfuckers!
And we are definitely going to pause and talk a little bit more after this podcast because we have things to say. All right. So 2004 came along. Travelogue was Joni Mitchell's final album. She was done. Everything's a cesspool. Fuck the music industry. She is done. And then we find out about an album called The Beginning of Survival, which has her painting that wasn't this the Gap ad that she did in the 80s or whatever? So basically, The Beginning of Survival is a mixtape of Dog Eat Dog and Chalk Mark in a Rainstorm and a couple Night Ride Home songs, right?
I'm trying to imagine how good this would be now with some pieces from Shine added to it.
Yeah, okay. We have Magdalene from Turbulent, of course. No Apologies from Taming the Tiger. So I feel if someone came to you in 2004 and said, do you need a compilation that opens with the reoccurring dream? Do you need that in your life? I don't know if anyone walking this green earth would say that's what I need. But Sue, you've mentioned this compilation a few times throughout this podcast. So we have Sue and then Bob opening this one up.
So here's the thing is that I didn't, I have to be honest and say I didn't buy any of these compilations, but somebody gave me this one and I friggin' loved it. I don't know what it was about the combination of all those songs in one. I call it all her protest songs on one compilation. And I had it in my car and I listened to it for like 3 weeks straight. Just because, I don't know, there was something about all those songs together in one spot that was so powerful to me. Like my favorite song on here is The Three Great Stimulants. I fucking love that song. It's just so amazing.
I do too.
Sorry, I just cursed.
Oh, you can curse. Fuck.
But, and what's weird about it too, and I can hear Bob talking in my ear, Reoccurring Dream was on the last 3 compilations, right? So was a couple of the other songs from Chalkmark, although they do have Magdalena Laundries on here, which is an incredibly great protest song.
Right.
And even Impossible Dreamer, which is about Martin Luther King, John Lennon, and Robert Kennedy. And, it's just, I don't know, I just felt really, really like I hadn't really appreciated her, what they call her political songs, And I really think that almost all these songs I really love. I mean, actually, no, I don't really like No Apologies.
Yeah, I don't like that one either.
But the rest of Sex Kills.
I hate that song.
No Apologies?
I hate that song.
Yeah,
the bottom line is it's about a topic that we all know way too well, but for whatever reason, I just hate it, and I don't know why.
Because I feel it's like we get it, Joni. Like by that point, it's like here we go again. More oil spills, more soldiers. This is the one compilation of all of them though, where it did kind of put things in a new light. It kind of tilted the songs and made me kind of all these. This may be the only one too, because then they just kept coming and coming. But I liked those 80s albums. Didn't I give them all a 10? So I did enjoy hearing them in a different sequence. Bob.
So yeah, this was truly worthless. I mean, it reminds me of a conversation that Bob Murphy and I used to have. If you look at the cover of this record, you look at that left hand of hers. I call it the ghoul hand because it looks like a zombie. It's a zombie hand, right? Look at the ghoul hand. It's this ghoul hand. It's really gross. And this was 2004. So at this point,
it's art, Bob. It's art.
Yeah, it's a ghoul hand. At this point, we all had, the equipment to take these tracks off the original CDs and burn them to another CD and play that CD. And it seemed like it's really naive because releasing this record was something that we could all sequence her songs any way we wanted. Any of her songs, put them on a CD in any order we want. So what are you selling me this for? It made me extremely angry because we all knew, those of us at this point, we're like 6-7 years into the JMDL. We know there's great stuff out there in the archives. Other artists are putting it out there. She's not. She's releasing the same crap over and over and over again. It's totally pissing me off. And then you add the ghoul hand to it, like I'm a zombie. It was terrible. This was terrible. I couldn't have been more mad.
This brings up something. We're gonna do a little sidetrack that me and my friends go to some pretentious art shows. We have an inside joke where there's like art, but then people that take themselves very seriously, it's art. So I feel like the beginning of Joni Mitchell usually does art, but beginning of Survival is art. Okay, I'm not funny. Chris, Mark, Ruben, talk about the ghoul hand.
Well, I don't think I could possibly disagree more with Bob.
Oh!
I don't think I could possibly. I think that this is a collection that I would be proud and happy to play for anybody who does not know Joni Mitchell's music and does not think of her past. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot. I think this has such responsibility from the liner notes that are Chief Seattle's speech. She is using her pulpit here to really make a difference. And this is all material that she has created and served to us, but now is putting in one place to facilitate her message. This couldn't be a better use of the compilation method to distill a message. I am so proud of her for having done this. I am so loving of this compilation. This is the one compilation of all of them that, for me, absolutely makes the whole notion of how to do it. Every artist should look deep within themselves and come up with something this good.
And something that we should tell the listeners.
I'm actually angry about this. I'm actually angry right now.
So we have two angry people because Bob's angry at the record company. Chris is angry at Bob.
Joni was angry at the world.
Joni was angry at the world.
So she seeded. Look what she put that anger out into the universe, and look what came back to her.
There
Like
are all these compilations have really a great booklet of all her paintings too. So if you like her artwork, you can get these for the artwork. Before we move on, we have Mark, Ruben, and Paz. My review of the compilation: good gowns, great gowns. Okay, Mark. Oh, you're muted.
Well, first of all, I believe that letter was not written by Chief Seattle. I think that was kind of exploded. And it's been all over the internet and on Facebook and everywhere, and it's attributed to him, but it wasn't really something that he wrote. But what strikes me about this, though, and about what whoever it was that wrote that says, is the whole concept of the beginning of survival. This is the end of life as we know it, basically, is what it's saying, and the beginning of survival. And that was very prescient, I thought, of her, because it feels like we're on the verge of that now. I mean, we've got water shortages in California, and I mean, Lake Mead is down how many feet? It's crazy. And and the songs, I kind of agree with Chris here. songs all really show that Joni Mitchell wasn't just the hippie chick. You know, she wasn't just the blonde girl with the guitar. She was there is a deep thinker, and she put it into this group of songs. Now, as far as, yeah, you could rip them from the CDs, from the albums that they came from, but I don't know. She's a brilliant sequencer. I mean, she usually puts things together so that they flow really smoothly, and I don't know.
Well, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. This might be our most heated Phonogenics, which I'd like. This is going to be good for the ratings now that we have a wider audience. This is not going to be the Geffen albums of the podcast. It's going to have a wide audience. Okay, devil's advocate. Is there anybody out there that didn't already know that Joni Mitchell was more than the hippie folk singer? Do you think this compilation came along and someone's like, I never knew that she had all this? Because I feel like this only went to the people that were already converts.
Of course.
Well, what Chris was saying, though, is if you played this for somebody that didn't know her entire catalog,
right,
they would probably be amazed by it.
I wonder if that we will never know, but I wonder if there's that person out there that we'll never meet that's like, I never knew how much Joni had to say till my friend played me the beginning of Survival.
Friends, when did people stop rolling their eyes when you would mention Joni Mitchell?
About a week ago.
That's my point. Okay. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of people who don't have any idea the depth of what she's capable of.
Yeah. And I will say I love all the songs on this mostly. So, you know, I see this from both sides now. Okay.
That's one of the things that I hope with her name out in the public again, and so much news about her, that people will explore some of this music and won't just go back, oh, well, that's a record that I bought back in 60 or 75 or something, and play that. Or maybe they'll take a look at some of this other stuff.
This might be a hot take, and this is a little off topic, but I don't feel that the new release of like For the Roses and Court and Spark got near the attention like the blue one did. So I feel like the attention has already waned a little bit, unfortunately. But I guess that's a discussion for the archives next year. Ruben.
Chris, just backing up a little bit, what you stopped and saying you were really angry. What particular thing were you angry about? I missed something.
I'm particularly angry that people are not seeing the worth of what the use of the format that she was choosing to create this compilation, that she was focusing very specifically on message songs, and that is really to be congratulated. I mean, this is the antithesis to Hits and Misses, which was kind of like, whatever, it was just vomit practically. This is really curated material. And she's trying to say something, and the fact that we can talk about many of her albums for hours and hours and hours, and yet some of us will still look at this collection and sort of not see the forest for the trees here. It's disappointing to me. It's really disappointing.
I totally agree, and I think that this was a great use of her energy and power to put this out. And I hope some people heard it. I hope some new people heard it. This is her. When my daughter was little, when I was trying to get sense, I would say, look at me. And this is kind of her doing that in a way to the rest of the world, saying, look at this, look at it. And I thought this was a really successful compilation. I really did. And I had completely forgotten about it, to be honest, until we started talking about it. So I'm glad I showed up tonight.
I do feel like weren't a lot of the songs from this though on Mrs.
But in a whole different context.
Yeah, I guess a different context. I think for me, historically, this would have had more weight and more meaning if this would have been the only compilation that she did. But when it
Mhm.
became a series of 3, I felt that cheapened what this was, honestly. Because then it didn't have that standalone, like, examine this body of work. Because then it just became, then they kept coming and coming. But we'll get to that in like 10 minutes.
Imagine if it felt like the 3 compilations in a row didn't have much to do with each other. And imagine
Yeah.
if she came out and said, hey, I'm putting out these 3 things over the next, 8 months. And here's why. And it just some little note about it. Putting all 3 of them in their own context to each other. It might have been more successful, but I feel like these were kind of more scattershot than that.
Right. And at one point, it just felt like they were never going to stop. I'm like, oh, quit taking my money. All right. Pause.
Geez, great conversation. I thought this was going to be kind of goofy, but thank you, Bob. Thank you, Chris. Geez, I have to side with Chris here, and your diatribe about Joni Mitchell. It's her gig. I totally get it. The thing is, this album is full of orchestral versions of songs, which some I love and some I don't really love. But wow. As far as I'm concerned, everything she's ever done, I've been sucked into because I'm a fan. I love Joni Mitchell. I'm so excited to be going to the Gorge in Washington soon. My question to you guys, all of you at this point. So you haven't heard it on an album yet, and believe me, they're going to edit it. They're going to come up with something. It was not perfect. I witnessed it in real time. People sending me videos and everything. God, I loved every minute of it because it was Joni Mitchell. It was part of the fabric of who I am. And while my kids get it, my wife still doesn't get it, but she's coming with me to the Gorge. Why? Because it's going to be a party and she's ready. So I may assimilate somebody after the fact, but I'm just saying. So, especially Bob, Chris, what do you expect from this new live album? And
let's wait. Let's not go off track. Let's stay with. Let's
well,
stay.
I just want to ask this question, please.
Okay, then we're gonna get back on track though, because I want to stay chronological.
Because just by the comments that have been made, it's just this is we've already seen it. I mean, everybody's got YouTube. Everybody's got the thing that's going to be an album. It's going to be Joni at whatever it's going to be. But then I still understand that there's some other stuff that's going on. Like I suspected all along, this woman, Brandy Carlisle, is a force to be reckoned with. She's pulled Joni back to us, and I appreciate that so much. Anybody?
What specifically are you asking, Klaus?
I just want to know what you think. If this new album, it's a live album, it's all stuff that, just like what we're talking about. I mean, it's in context with what we're talking about. The compilations, the rehashings of everything. This was a live recording of something that she was not really the main participant. It was a Joni jam.
I'm on board with it. I think it's a great.
Yet another. You were bored with it?
Oh, I said I'm on board with it. I can't wait.
You're on board with it.
Give my money away to get a copy of it.
Me too. So I wish I would have been there, but I mean, I just heard people locally that said to me, "Wow, she just sang the same old songs," and I said, "Wait a second, though. When she first wrote the song, she was 21 years old, and yet this is this far 50 years later, and she's back at Newport and singing it in a different register than she sang it the first time she was there. If she even performed that, and I'm not even sure if she did do Both Sides Now there. But wow. For me, it was a very emotional day that day because Les called me or texted me and said, "Are you hip? Do you know she's there?" And I said, "Well, where?" She said, "Newport. She's getting ready to go on stage." And somebody that is very close to me, I didn't know that he didn't know that I was a huge Joni fan. But it's somebody that I've worked with and that I've hired to work with me in my industry as a stage manager. And he was stage manager that day. I have...
Pause. I'm
Yep.
taking control of my podcast, all right?
Okay.
I want to stay to the compilations and do them in order. If you guys want to talk about Newport later, I'm cool with that. But I don't think the people listening are going to enjoy going down this rabbit hole in this order. Is that okay with you guys?
It's
Thanks,
fine with me.
Jeremy.
Sorry.
Okay.
I just was relating it to what was the...
I know, but that's not how I want to do it. So that has to be okay. Okay. So do we have anything else to say about Beginning of Survival? Nope. Okay. We're moving on to 2005 when you went to Starbucks. We're going to go chronologically. These two items came out, Joni Mitchell, Artist Choice, and then another compilation of her hits. So these ones are available at the counter at Starbucks. The thing I liked about the Artist Choice is that Joni Mitchell included one of her own songs, which I thought was a very Joni thing to do, with Harlem in Havana on there. And then on the Joni Mitchell, songs chosen by her friends and fellow musicians. So the gimmick with this one is that her peers and her friends picked out what Joni Mitchell songs to be on there. And it's kind of your expected. We have For Free, A Case of You, Free Man in Paris. We have Coyote. So we have yet another compilation. This is when you would go, when a lot of people went to Starbucks and you would find the CDs on the counter at the store. So Ruben, Bob, and then Chris, take it away. Oh, you're muted.
My hand was up from the last one. I don't
Oh,
have
it's
a
up.
say about these. I thought it was cool that she picked that New Radicals song. I thought that was a really great song, and I liked the fact that she liked it too. But I don't know. These weren't that interesting to me, these two. And I honestly I don't remember. Chris, you held up the second one with the brown cover. I don't remember that one at all.
Yeah.
So, but I'm anxious to hear what you have to say about it.
So this is one where her friends and peers picked out the hits. So this is going to be interesting. We have Bob and then Chris.
Yeah, well, I mean, no hard feelings for anybody. Everyone's opinion is valid and it all matters, right?
Yeah.
So I really like the Artist Choice because this was Joni's songs that she would make, like her own mixtape with. And some of these were rehashes from the British interview she did back in the 80s, My Top 12, which was something I shared with many, many people because I thought it was brilliant. Steely Dan's Gaucho, Edith Piaf, the Debussy piece, and having been a Joni fan for a long time and hearing these songs that meant so much to her was extremely powerful. So this CD was great because it didn't, some of these tunes were new. The Billie Holiday, the Louis Jordan, who I love, Louis Jordan. I was next door 3 days ago listening to Saturday Night at the Fish Fry with my neighbor on his state-of-the-art turntable, listening to a Louis Jordan record. So that was really cool. And Chuck Berry, I mean, this makes Joni, it humanizes her to a great extent. And you see where, okay, I get that, right? I mean, I see where maybe Raised on Robbery had some of these rock and roll influences on it, and why she wanted to do it last on her orchestral record. So this and as like Ruben said, the New Radical song, I flipped over this record. The first time I heard it, I was up in Philadelphia on a relocation from work, and I heard the song on the radio, and it was so good I had to pull into a parking lot to listen to it. bought the CD, and the whole CD was great. And the guy never recorded another record because he said, I just had these songs. Why don't you record them? I'm done with it. But to me, it's like, oh, Joni, you're right in touch with what was happening today. So this CD was wonderful. The other one, the songs, her best hits from other people, that was worthless. But this one was a 10 out of 10.
Now, Chris, watch Chris is be like, that was a 1. That was a piece of garbage.
See, to be honest, all three of these are really, really different. They have very different jobs that they'll do. And the fact that, Starbucks here was investing that much, she must have felt great in terms of that they were able to repackage enough of her material in a way that she, had control. She talked about this in the Elton John piece about how long it took her to do. She's still, referring back to some of these tracks in playing them for Elton. I actually have a 78 lacquer of the Louis Jordan Saturday Night Fish Fry, which I love. It's really shiny, and I worry it's going to break every time I touch it. But it's a really strong collection, and frankly, the liner notes are worth the price of admission alone. The stories she tells, referencing how she came upon almost every one of these tracks, they're just gold. They're absolute gold. Now, this one is interesting because some of them, where we as friends and as longtime, fans, are familiar with the stories behind them and the names of the people who selected some of these songs. If you're not familiar with them, I'll go through them very quickly. For Free, David Crosby, no surprise there.
Right.
The Case of You, Prince.
He covered it.
Free Man of Paris, Bob Dylan.
He fell asleep during it.
Right. For the Roses, Elvis Costello, not Scarlett. Strange, I thought. Coyote, Robbie Robertson.
Makes sense.
Well, yes, I would have thought so too. I had one embarrassing moment where Robbie Robertson was doing a voiceover for me. I think I told this story once, and I stupidly was under the impression that he was Coyote.
Oh,
and
shit.
I think I said, no regrets, Coyote, before, hanging up on the session. And I am living to regret that moment. All right. And this reminded me of it. Thank you. Raised on Robbery, also Robbie Robertson. So maybe this is kind of like Joni selecting one of her own tracks on the artist's choice. Robbie Robertson gets that guitar work put on it. Blue, Graham Nash.
Yep.
Cold Blue Steel and Sweet Fire, Donald Fagen. A Strange Boy, Seal. Black Crow, Katie Lang. God Must Be a Boogeyman, Walter Becker. Two Gray Rooms, Chaka Khan.
That's a cool one.
Both Sides Now, the orchestral version, Herbie Hancock.
That's a good one.
So when you sort of apply some of those contexts for people like us in this group who are kind of aware of some of these stories, somehow this becomes a more important record for me, a more important compilation, only because it makes me think of some of the backstories that I already know from this. Playing it for somebody who's not heard it before, it's a pretty good compilation in terms of it covers a lot of ground of her career.
Actually better than Hits did, I feel like.
Yeah. And so I think this is a pretty successful, and not a lot of heavy lifting needed to go into it, really.
And each artist gave a little liner note and story about why they selected the song. So these little Starbucks things, they're cheap to get. They're nice little curiosities. They're very 2005.
Right.
I mean,
I feel this one is going to prompt a larger discussion.
I have to admit, I forgot completely that I even had this or that it existed. And now that I see that Seal chose A Strange Boy and then performed it so beautifully at Joni 75, and I think he mentioned that somewhere that the song meant something to him, something really special.
All right, Jim.
Okay, well, I've said before that when the 80s hit, I started diving into jazz a little bit. So to have all these recommendations from Joni, well, Debussy isn't really jazz, but you know, she's talking about Ellington twice, and she's talking about Billie Holiday, and she's talking about Miles Davis. All this stuff was in my wheelhouse at the time, so that was, although I really poo-pooed the earlier compilations, this one was very interesting because, as Bob said, it humanized Joni a lot.
Right.
And she said something in here that was almost word for word that I had said like a dozen times. Quote, I never understood why Gaucho didn't receive the same critical acclaim of Asia. This is like word for word right out of my mouth. So, yeah, she's great. And I guess we're going
might have well have said hissing and Court and Spark in the,
right,
the same sentence.
Right. And for me, Don Juan, but yeah, I take your point. And so then on to this one, and I'll continue on the theme. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm back on the other one. Yeah, see, I know when I start trying to do two things at once. Okay, so I'm back on this one, track 9. And Joni's talking about Steely Dan. And then on this one, Cold Blue Steel is recommended by Donald Fagen, who knows what it's like to be at close proximity to somebody with an opioid problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, you know, there was this confluence of influences that was very, very interesting to me right after I had poo-pooed all these compilations. And it's like, you know, my faith is restored almost. Yeah. I'll just remind you guys that in my book, one of the great compilations of the world is the Springsteen compilation, the live one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm out. Thank you.
And just for a little historical context, Starbucks did these for a lot of different artists. So at the time, CD sales were really big. Starbucks was really big. So Joni's next studio album actually did come out on the Here Now label, which was what these came out on.
Willie Nelson and Johnny Cash's Artist Choice are fantastic.
Sheryl Crow had one, for if anyone cares. Yeah, these are a big thing in 2005. So that's another cool thing about these podcasts is, you know, no one will even think about. I mean, for other artists, didn't they do you know, like Willie Nelson songs chosen by his friends? I think both these Artist Choice and songs chosen by friends were a big series for Starbucks. So any other thoughts on these before we move on to the next?
I just have
go ahead, Jim.
very brief Sheryl Crow thing. You mentioned Sheryl Crow, and I just thought of this. One of my coworkers used to be a waitress at a high-end restaurant of some kind, and somebody got her talking and said, well, tell me something about some of the same famous people who came through. And she says, well, you know, blah, 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 and Sheryl Crow. And somebody says, well, tell me something about Sheryl Crow's. And she said, well, you know, she doesn't have a good complexion.
But her fabulous.
All right, we're moving on. What year are we here?
Can I say one more thing about?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
I remember reading a quote that Joni said in an interview about how Sheryl Crow was a manufactured artist, and I know some of the people that manufactured her. Does anybody else remember that?
Wow.
It was back in the snark days. You remember that, Mark? Yeah. Anyway, that's just an aside.
Always a pleasant woman back in the 2000s. We need a little coffee table book of like Joni's snarkiest quotes, because I think I would definitely put that on my coffee table. Okay. 2004, another compilation comes out. This one's called Dreamland. More paintings. This one to me at the time made no damn sense. Like the beginning of Survival, I understood recontextualizing those songs. And I listened to it a few times. I was wowed. Then I put it away and never listened to it again. This one, I don't even know what to say. If it's a Team Bob, if Bob is one side and Chris is the other side, as far as the enthusiasm, I am Bob, Team Bob on this one.
What
And
was
I say that in jest, everybody. I hope we're not too raw.
what was the theme on this one? I don't remember.
There was no theme. Was there a theme? Okay, Bob, your hand is up. Let's get this rolling.
The theme was I want product in the marketplace. I've said this before. Joni likes product in the marketplace. Dave Blackburn disagreed. I will say, as evidence, look at the discography because it keeps coming, right? Now we have this Newport thing that's coming. Every year where she's not recording, she's putting out collections of songs that we already have. If Survival pissed me off, Dreamland was like a slap in my face and a whack on my ass with a board. It's totally worthless. Totally worthless.
It is totally worthless.
These are songs that have no connection whatsoever. And they're all great songs. Don't get me wrong. The songs in the compilations, they're all just fine songs, except I think Dreamland has Dancing Clown on it, which is terrible. And some other songs that are not so good. There's a lot of great songs.
Not your version,
Yellow
baby,
Taxi and Carrie. It's got some great songs
version.
on it, but it has no purpose whatsoever. It's really, really awful. People think, well, I put a new painting on it and people will buy it. And some people did. I had no interest in it. It just made me madder and madder than I already was mad.
You were madder than Joni was.
Yeah, I wrote no snarky liner notes, but I was mad.
The file wasn't the cake. And I do want to talk about Newport at the end. When we end this podcast, we are going to talk about our predictions and outlooks. So I definitely want to revisit that. I just want to stay chronological because I'm a little OCD and type A personality.
And this one did come out before the Starbucks.
Yeah,
things
I fucked up the years. To me, these kind of all blend together in a big pile of bullshit.
That's a great big mush.
Okay, so we have a lot of people that want to talk about Dreamland. We have Mark, Sue, Chris, and Ruben. Okay, Mark, Dreamland.
I think Mark's frozen.
Oh, crap. Okay. Well,
he's looking good with that great haircut.
I know. Mark, you're looking great. We'll get back to you. Sue.
I only have one thing to say, and it just popped into my head. Yeah, I also agree that this was a waste of time as far as the music goes, there's liner notes from Cameron Crowe, I guess, but one of the things that I'm thinking about around this time, wasn't this around the time that Joni was really sick? Didn't she have like that, like she was going through stuff and she wasn't really doing well?
When was the Morgellons? That was later.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I forgot about what the name of that was, but I just can't remember the time frame for that. And maybe she felt like she couldn't do another album. Well, she had done Travelogue, right?
Right.
What year did she record that? I can't remember.
2002 that came out.
Okay, so from 2003 to 2007 when she did Shine, that's when all these compilations came out, I assume. And, I don't think that she was feeling that great. But I'd have to look back and see what the dates were for that illness that she had. That's all I wanted to say.
All right, Chris.
I have very little to say about this record because I don't own it. I looked at the track listing and said, I don't see much of an arc really, and I didn't see. I kind of unlike me, I usually will at least try to listen to it to see if there's a musical arc or
like an epiphany of some kind, right?
Just transitions that would work to sort of smooth things out, and even just sequencing. And I couldn't really. I had no feeling for it, so I didn't go for this one at all.
Do you think someone at Reprise Records is like, Joni, give us a compilation that has the Jungle Line and Dancing Clown on it? Because this one does. Okay, Ruben.
I just was glancing through the liner notes on this, the very, very extensive, gooey liner notes from Cameron Crowe. I didn't remember that he wrote these at all, but it says, it's true, Joni Mitchell is currently on hiatus from songwriting and recording. Perhaps the muse is on hold, she says, while she continues to refurbish her valued later period work. That is an interesting line to me. Or maybe she's waiting for or maybe it's deeper. In 1997, she reunited with her daughter. She hadn't seen her in 32 years. She says, I started writing when I lost my daughter, and I stopped when she came back. That we kind of talked about a little when we talked about Shine.
Right.
I think that's a really remarkable thought, that all of the stuff that we've all embraced so much over our lives was out of this terrible loss.
Right.
And when the loss ended and they were reunited, it floated away, and that just gives me goosebumps to think about. And I think not maybe so much that she was ill at this time, but here's a working commercial artist who's kind of taking a break in her, what is it, she late 50s, early 60s at this point? How old was she in the 90s? 50-ish? She's trying to make some money. Put out another compilation, a little more money rolls in until you do your next major project. I'm done.
All right, Jim.
Okay. Yeah, what you said, that quote really hit me in the solar plexus. And it dovetails with what I was talking about earlier, where she was saying, if I marry Graham, well, maybe I won't have a career. Now women feel charged up and almost responsible for doing that same, that both at once. Anyway, in defense of this Dreamland one, I'll say that at one time I took about 2/3 of my CDs to the radio station because somebody had given them a grant, but they earmarked it for only digital FM. They had to buy a digital transmitter, and they had to make a sideband off the side of their signal for digital, which was, not a great idea because it doesn't go as far as analog, and who has the right radio kind of thing. So the FCC told them they had to invent new content for the new station. They couldn't just simulcast it on the digital side. And so they had no content put on this new transmitter that they had bought with earmarked money. So it was kind of a sad situation. So I took 2/3 of my CD collection over to the radio station in 3 suitcases and said to Nikki, here you go. You can burn whatever you want here, because I understand that the mechanicals will go to the artist, right? And so you might as well just load up. And I checked back a couple months later, and about 1/3 of the CDs were not in the suitcases. And I said,
wow,
Nikki, have you been moving them out of the suitcase and into a big pile somewhere, like stuff you want to burn? And she said, no, those suitcases are right there where you left them 2 months ago. And I looked at her door and I said, do you lock your office when you leave? And she said, no.
Oh.
So this CD compilation was one of the things that was lost. I'm out.
All right. Any other
Somebody
thoughts?
liked it.
Somebody somewhere was listening to Dreamland, the compilation. Any other thoughts on Dreamland before we move on to the next compilation that came out the 1 year later?
Is there anything they might have learned? I haven't heard anybody say that there's anything here that might have given it a reason.
I never knew of a theme behind this one. I don't remember any kind of promotion around the Dreamland compilation that had any kind of theme. Does anybody remember anything?
My rent is due.
Let's move on. Okay, so Joni's rent was due again in 2006. But this time, she was doing an album, a new collection curated by Joni Mitchell, musical tales of long, cold winters with a hint of short but glorious summers. So before everyone starts talking, I will say that I did enjoy the theme around this one, and it was a little bit better than Dreamland. But by this point, I was like Bob. I'm like, all right, this has got to stop. Like, are they just going to keep going on forever? Are we going to get 8,000? Like, thank goodness that Shine eventually came along and gave us something new, because my patience was starting to wear thin by the time of this one. Ruben's hand is up. I think that might be from the last one. Jim, is your hand up from the last one?
Jeremy, you ignorant slut.
I am.
You're absolutely wrong about prairie songs of a prairie girl. I know you're the host.
I'm just thankful that you think I'm a slut, because I can't get any. You know what I mean? I'm thank you for calling me a slut.
It's not a quantitative.
Yeah. This bedroom is. Do you see the tumbleweeds going through it? Okay.
I had to go there, didn't I?
Okay.
No, what I mean to say is, I respectfully disagree.
This is the most heated Phonogenics that's ever happened. Woo.
This is this is my favorite compilation, and I know that
out of the 30 that came out. Well, everyone had.
I know that sounds like faint praise to this group, but come on, it has a remix of Paprika Plains. There's this huge essay written by Randy
They finally
Remote.
tuned the piano.
They tuned the piano. There's lovely pictures of the Hashira photo session. Can I ask a question? Was the remix any different? Because I listened to it and it didn't sound any different to me than Don wants. I guess we're going to get to that, right? Jim, continue. I interrupted you.
Okay, that's all right. Yeah, well, Randy Remote broke it all down. And one of the things it did was that there's this famous story where Joni recorded on a piano at one point and then put some piano down a few months later in a different studio and in a different city, and then a third piano in a different session, and they started sticking them together, and then they added strings. And when Charles Mingus heard it, even before they worked together, Charles said the piano's out of tune. Right. Because he had such fine pitch, being a composer himself, that he recognized that the strings were recorded. People who record strings know they all tune together, right? And so anyway, and so some pianos were closer than others, and they weren't. Some were sharp slightly, and some were flat slightly, I think, if I remember right. And so that was one of the first things that he accused her of when they met. And Joni just liked his spirit, partly because he picked up on that. So anyway, one of the things about Paprika Plains is that they used the latest and greatest tools, supposedly. I don't know what they were, digital of some kind. And they were able to tune the pianos to the strings.
Oh, okay.
Without speeding them up or slowing them down, which is the old way they used to do.
Right.
With digital technology, they were able to just increase that pitch just enough and then decrease it in other places. The other thing that was done with Paprika Plains was when the band plugs in again near the end, it doesn't just explode from the speakers. It's more of a piece, which is kind of a shame. But anyway,
I like
it was just a different take. So those are. Unless you have perfect pitch, you're not going to hear the first, but you'll probably hear the second.
Okay.
The other thing is that this one really does have a theme, and the second thing, it's somebody. If I remember right, somebody approached her to put together her songs that talk about the prairie. Like where she grew up, in Saskatoon and all that, and So she kind of revisits some of the things that she thought about it as a young person growing up. And Song for Sharon's on here, and River's on here, and
Urge for Going opens it up again. It's an opening track twice.
And Chinese Cafe has those lines about we look like our mothers did now when we were those kids' age, that all that stuff. There's even Harlem and Havana here. And although it might sound like a jumble, the thing is that we as fans, as lifelong fans, know that all that stuff is threaded together in Saskatoon. We know the story behind Harlem and Havana, so we know that belongs with Song for Sharon. Thematically, there's a reason for this compilation to exist. Plus, tons and tons of pictures of Joni, and as a Black Crow skating. What more could you ask for? 3 big reasons to buy that one. I'm out.
You see, the way I felt about this compilation, and I'm going to throw in a little Madonna discography. She came out with a compilation in 2002 called GHV2 that had her hits. Then she had right in the middle of her hits, she had the damn orchestra version of Don't Cry for Me Argentina instead of the remix. So when we get to this one, we're chugging along, and then comes the damn dreadful orchestra Cherokee Louise right at the beginning. So I never liked that version, and that's kind of where I hit the brakes on this one once we got that at track 3.
It was the orchestral one from Travelogue? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh, Lord. So that's kind of where I checked out on this one. But Ruben, was your hand up from before? Or do you have something to add to this one?
I like this. I like the theme of this. I think with these, to me, maybe I'm just not a very creative thinker, but the better the theme, the more cohesive the disc is, the better I like it. But
okay.
I liked the theme of this. I thought the artwork was gorgeous. That's really why I bought it, was for the photographs. I thought it was a really nice package, and it was sort of a classy product that she put out during this sort of fallow period where she wasn't doing anything in a way that the other ones weren't for me.
Now, as a music collector and fan, I almost feel like if only this one existed, or if only The Beginning and Survival existed, if they were each like a standalone release that weren't part of this onslaught, I think I might have enjoyed each of them a little bit more. But that's just my personal opinion for what it's worth. And now,
just reading something in one of the liner notes that referred to the Warner Strategic Marketing Group that was working with Mitchell on this series of compilations. So this clearly was a more aggressive plan than it seemed to be.
Okay.
But that was interesting.
So it's kind of like people in a boardroom corporate group, which all the songs from the 80s were kind of about. All right, things are about to heat up because next up we have Chris and then Bob. Chris!
Not going to heat up at all because I this collection because I thought it was going to be autobiographical, and I was really welcoming that. She was taking the opportunity to involve some of what she thought, I guess, were better versions of earlier songs,
right?
Which is, I guess, is her prerogative to do. But she was also taking the opportunity and spending the money to maybe go back and revisit and tweak a few things along the way. I think overall, the collection is good. It describes her a bit. There are other things that I think are clearly missing from her autobiographical story, like in France, They Kiss on Main Street. I mean, things, other songs that might have introduced us to some of her cast of characters from her background. I think that it's halfway there for me, this collection, but at least I applaud the context by which she was trying to draw all of these songs together and create a wrapping for them. That said, now I have to say out loud that I do not like the remix on Paprika Plains. And, that's a song, obviously, I study very closely.
Right.
And I think that the changes made to the pitch of the strings are almost, you can't hardly hear it that anything has really been done, which I think is a good thing, because my personal take on it has been that the fact that the strings are out of tune for various portions of it create a texture, a sonic texture that's organic, and at the same time give any autobiography a necessary thing, which is time. And the fact that instruments lose their tune over time, it created for me a dreamscape that she didn't totally remove, I'm glad to say, because I think it would have really suffered.
So collectively, and individually.
What's that, Mike?
Collectively and individually is what you're saying. So what you heard was great. You heard the imperfections, but
yes, I embraced.
It is what it is.
I embraced that imperfection, and I actually had myself convinced that she had made a choice to do that.
She did.
I applauded that. I thought that was a very, very interesting, clever thing to do. However, it seems that if she did make that choice, she forgot she made that choice and claimed it was a mistake and had to fix it. But other things she decided to try to fix, I think, were even more deleterious.
I thought that was the piano, not the strings. It was the piano, because the piano was the culprit.
I personally think it's the piano.
The piano was the culprit.
That is the
culprit.
culprit.
Two pianos.
She has blamed the strings for some reason, and I don't know why, but I blame the piano.
If you're cutting a track with strings, hopefully they played the correct piano part for the strings for the part.
Right.
I think it was the piano.
Yeah, I agree. But anyway, this is her narrative, how she wants to explain what she thought went wrong, and she's still harping on it. More deleterious, though, were, I think, the changes she made to the bass and the drums, because when that thunderclap hits toward the end and Guerin hits those toms, I feel so much has been lost in this mix.
I thought so too.
And for me, Jocko's bass has lost all of its melody and has become muddy thud. And I really feel like there's something. She should have known.
Which particular track are we talking? Or
this is Paprika Plains, the remix on Paprika Plains. I think really suffered quite a bit from those three things, but especially the drums being feathered back in the mix. And
which helps in a remix. Yes.
I think she wanted to pimp the ride, is what she did. She thought it would maybe get air. I don't know, but for me it was less successful. And then, of course, we also have to call out the remix dropping the vocal line. The first we hear the refrain of I'm going outside to get some air, but we don't hear that we don't hear her announce it for the first time.
Right, I remember that.
I'm thinking that there's a punch in somewhere, and they put that on another track somewhere and didn't remember to go back for it and had it muted while they were remixing it. But I don't know. I wasn't there. That's all I gotta say. I mean, it's a nice package.
I loved the concept. I love wintry things. I love the look, but it just didn't deliver the promise of what I felt it could have. And if I want a song that's wintry, I just go to Damn Hijira. You know what I mean? Like, that's where I go when I need the flurries and that little bit of a chill. Okay, Bob and then Jim.
So obviously this compilation has a theme. I've never gone to a record store to buy recordings that I already had because it might have liner notes or photographs that I want to see. I buy music for music. And this compilation, like Dreamland, like Survival, had nothing to offer in terms of music. It had music I'd already heard. So this was the third in a row, of these compilations that had no value to me. As far as Paprika Plains, it's a gimmick thing she did, like with Geffen, throw in some bonus tracks as gimmicks to get you to buy this 4 CD set for $75 to get a couple of tracks. She did it again on Love Has Many Faces with a trumpet solo she added to one track and then charged X number of dollars for the set. I'm not going to fall for that. I didn't fall for any of it.
All right. And Jim, do you want to close out the discussion on Songs of a Prairie Girl, since I feel like you're the biggest fan of this compilation amongst our group?
And that's okay. I'm a words guy. So, and I'm a fan of the way Joni sequences albums. And this one, unlike hits, unlike misses, I feel like this one was masterful. And the reason it doesn't have later songs on it is because it's all about high school. And the words in every single one of these is about middle school or high school in Saskatoon. I'm like Ray's dad Cadillac, right?
Sue's favorite.
The blue lights, right? So I mean that's a high school song, and so they're all collected together. And if you don't, and if you like them, you do, and if you don't, that's okay too. The last thing I want to say is that Joel Bernstein definitely got his props here. It was a sumptuous collection of his pictures.
Yeah. All right. And it looks like we're going to close out Prairie Girl with Mark. Welcome back.
Thank you. My computer took a nosedive. I don't know what the hell was going on, but it crashed and burned.
But you looked fabulous.
What's that?
But you looked fabulous. Freeze.
Your computer's like, I want to avoid those compilations too. Get me the hell out of.
Just want to go back to this one for a minute.
Yeah, you had something to say about Dreamland.
Find this painting to be very, very odd.
Yeah.
It almost looks like she's got flames behind her. It's the cover of Dreamland. And I never could figure out why she chose that, but anyway. As far as Songs from a Prairie Girl goes, the whole point of that was that it was songs about Canada, I think, or about her youth in Canada, her time in Canada. I don't know if it was supposed to be about winter, but of course there's a lot of winter songs on there because they have a lot of winter up there in Saskatoon. And I really appreciated getting those extra photos. I'm not like Bob. I kind of like the physical aspect of a CD and what comes with it, and particularly a box set. I mean, I'm a sucker for that kind of shit. So those extra photos of Joel Bernstein's shoot on Lake Mendota, it was wonderful. I liked it. As for the music, it's good, It's of course it's good. It's Joni, and it's some of her best songs on there. But I just listened to it this morning, I think it was, and I hadn't for a long, long time. And it works. That's all.
All right. Well, we made it through the compilations. Then, Jim.
I apologize for taking so much time tonight, but that on Wikipedia they're saying that there are 2 more releases that I've never heard anybody discuss before, and one of them is Live at Canterbury House on 3 LPs released in 2020. And
that's archives. That's archives.
That's part of our archives.
Oh, is it? Oh, so They just peeled off that part. Okay, and then Live at Carnegie Hall. Oh,
those are archives side.
Archives.
Okay. Yeah. Never mind.
What we didn't talk about was the Fiddle and the Drum soundtrack.
So, yep, that's next. Moving on to 2007, right, Bob?
Yep.
So in case
2008.
2008, in case you
No,
wanted
2008.
in case you wanted Reoccurring Dream on another album, you got a chance in 2008 with the Fiddle and the Drum soundtrack. So once again, we have a lot of the songs that were on Beginning of Survival. We have one new song here, one or two new songs, and more, Sex Kills, For the Roses, Reoccurring Dream, Ethiopia. What'd you guys think of this? Jim, is your hand up from the thumbs down? Ruben.
Beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns. I'm going to pass on that one. Bob, do you have anything to say about Fiddle and the Drum soundtrack?
I mean, it's just, another no value for completists only.
It's pretty hard to find. I think I paid $75 for this because I don't think
was it for sale? Like a standalone?
I think you had to buy it at the show.
Oh.
Yeah.
I actually bought an early copy of it, and it had a different sequencing. And so, I had the collection that I have is a really rare copy.
Oh, wow. All right. We have a Kristen Sue.
I don't mind the fact that they tried to sell it, only because an audience leaving, a show that they've enjoyed might say,
Sure.
"Hey, what was that song that they danced, and the little girl came in and, and they lifted her up and, into the air and they, and all that stuff. People might have different recollections, and it's sort of like when you went to see a movie, and that was a musical, or any kind of show. Often, Broadway shows sell their, original cast albums at in the intermission. So this is kind of a no-brainer. This was probably an easy thing for them to have created for it. So, I think it's a rare thing. I mean, Bob, that you have one is terrific, and the fact that it has a different ordering of the track, even more special.
Yeah, I'd love to hear the track order on yours, Bob, sometime, just out of curiosity.
I'll see if I can find it. Hang on, let me see if I can find it.
So do you think anyone left? Do you think anyone? Do you think anyone left that building? They're like, I never really liked Big Yellow Taxi, but that version from the show, I need that on CD. So they left and bought it.
I bet some people did, because you know how you get when you're
I like that
caught
version.
caught up in the moment of a good show, and you come out and something is really stuck in your head, and then you buy it, and 6 months later you realize you just bought it because you were caught up in the moment.
Yeah,
I can see that happening.
All right, we have a Sue and Mark.
I wouldn't get this. I would get the DVD of the actual ballet.
Makes sense. Yeah,
So beautiful. And I went to see the ballet in Ottawa with Pat and Ann, and I met John Grandmontre. He was lovely.
I was there too.
Yeah, he was such a wonderful guy, and we had a long conversation about. It's great.
and just for reference, the DVD is pretty easy to get. That's not a rare item
Yeah,
at all.
sure.
It was
Yeah,
mass produced.
yeah. So, yeah, I just wanted to say I really love that show.
Yeah, yeah. This was an interesting era for Joni. Mark.
First of all, who released that CD?
The record company?
Oh, was it the record company?
No, I don't think so. Let me look.
Private label.
Yeah, I don't think this was on a label, Mark.
Was it
Let me look at the Discogs page.
Was
It was
it?
independent.
Yeah, it was independent.
All Joni.
Well, I did see the ballet when it played in Seattle, and I don't remember seeing that for sale. I might have bought it. I don't know.
There's
Maybe
one for
the only
sale.
thing I don't have.
It's for sale for $115 on Discogs.
They didn't have it in Ottawa, did they, Sue? I don't remember seeing it.
I don't remember.
I don't
seeing-
remember seeing it either. Yeah.
It says Universal Music Special Markets was the label for it.
But like Chris said, I could see an audience member buying it coming out of that ballet. It is nice to have that. I've got the DVD too.
Well, I wonder if Sam administers that now, working for with Universal. Information.
He's watching out for us, that's for sure.
But I wrote pretty extensively about that ballet. I did a review and Les published it on the website. So if I go back and read that, I pretty much can call it to mind. So I don't know that I would have to have this. And like I said, I had the DVD, but I don't know. I wouldn't pay $100 for it.
115. You can have them. It has some like pictures that the familiar pictures from the ballet. It is Universal Special Markets. I squinted and saw it. Bob, did you find your
Can
CD?
you show the front cover, please?
Yeah, of course.
I've got the
That's
DVD.
the only one I don't have.
And I have that CD. I have that CD somewhere. It's not. It's out of sequence.
It's the same as the DVD, same sequencing.
Yeah, the re-release. I bought an early release, and then the record company, the sale company said, "We sold you a bad copy with the songs out of sequence." I said, "Well, I'm going to keep it, so thank you very much." And then I saw this one too, which we never talked about.
Yeah, that's next.
I've got that one.
That's next on our list.
Okay, for tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
We'll just touch on it a little bit. Any thoughts on Fiddle and the Drum before we move on?
Somebody send it to me.
Haas, I'm gonna buy. When's your birthday? I'll get you that $115.
March 30th, baby.
Do I hear 200? Do I hear 2? Do I hear 250?
Look,
Haas,
just send me a mirror image of it.
Haas, I'm desperate. Let me sleep in the bathtub of your party house, and I'll buy you the
shit.
Fiddle and the Drum.
First.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Look, it's gonna be a fuck show. Come on, bring your sleeping bag.
Okay.
In that case,
Next.
I am coming.
Yeah. Everyone's got to go. We got to go, you guys. If there's a place you got to go, you just have to be there.
You just have to go there.
You just got to go there. You can travel across the country to hear Brandy Carlisle sing over Joni Mitchell. Okay.
Oh, I won't do it. I won't do it.
It was 2009, I believe. And there was an ad for a limited edition CD coming out, which my copy got water damage because I had a leak in my ceiling. This was sold to benefit Greenpeace, correct?
Correct.
It was a live concert with James Taylor, Joni Mitchell, and Phil Oakes. Is that how you say his name?
Yep.
This was a cool concert. It wasn't anything that changed my life. What does anyone have anything to say about the CD? I wanted to give it a quick mention.
James and Joni, but it wasn't the greatest performance.
No, and they cut off the end of their performance.
I think it was more. Sorry.
Mark, and then Sue.
I think it has more historical value than anything. It was
Right.
what launched Greenpeace. If you read the liner notes, it tells the whole story of it. And it's nice to have a good recording of Joni and James.
The archives, baby. Love the archives.
Yeah.
Beatles.
Now
the anthology.
She did do Hunter live here, so this was the first like official release of Hunter, which of course we have now. So I think she was getting ready to do Blue here around the time they did this concert, or she had done it or something. We have a version of Carry Me, Mr. Tambourine Man.
Tony Maroney.
Like Pa said, I think this kind of is what we had for the archives. Okay, Sue, your hand is up.
Well, I was going to mention Hunter too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
Cool. I think that's out of print, so I think it might be a little, something to buy if you're a Joni fan.
It's definitely hard to find.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, aren't we all still starved for whatever the woman puts out?
I'd buy every damn compilation.
Well, and of course, that's why we're doing this goddamn thing tonight. What I was trying to articulate before, I was cut off.
Oh,
she's gonna put out another album of an experience that none of us were part of, except that we were anticipating what she was doing. And yet we're gonna buy that album
Oh yeah.
coming, but there's another one coming behind it. And I predicted it, and it's coming. And Brandy Carlisle is driving the bus, baby, whether you like it or not.
Not.
I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah, she is. Because Joni suffered something
Yeah.
that none of us can predict. You know, you could get MS tomorrow, you could get cancer tomorrow.
Yeah.
No matter what, this woman is the greatest motherfucking artist of all time. I'm sorry. She's beaten her way back. She had a double aneurysm on my birthday in 2015. That was the darkest day of my life, other than the death of my parents. Oh my God. She's coming, baby. She's coming back in a big way, and hopefully she's going to shut a lot of motherfuckers up, please. Because you know what? As far as I'm concerned, Prince, James Taylor, David Crosby, all these people, they all love her for a reason. Why? She's the GOAT, motherfuckers. The GOAT. Hey, Joni.
I think Michael makes a good point. Well, there's one thing that we know about Joni, and that she does put out.
Well, apparently you think I do too. Okay, Ruben, your hands up. Then we're gonna move on.
We've heard that about you, Jeremy. We've heard that about you, but I
Fake
never
news.
believed it for a minute.
What?
Fake news.
I
Okay,
just was going to ask, did this circulate on the JMDL at some point? Because I have a copy of this from somewhere, which is why I didn't buy this particular one when it.
this one right here.
Yeah, did we all have that from before, and this was just a.
That's a commercial release.
Okay.
I have a copy.
But did the bootleg circulate before they released it? Probably, right?
no,
Yeah, because I
no,
remember
that was the
hearing-
first
None of
time,
that's ever
first time we
happened
heard
on
it.
the JMDL before, just
Oh.
recently. When,
I thought there was a low res version that was not in great shape that was
Yeah.
circulating.
There was a similar thing that was Joni and James at the BBC.
Oh, okay.
That
Maybe
might be
that's
what
what I'm
everybody's
That's a
thinking.
thinking of.
fantastic
It-
concert.
It
Let me
is a
just say that-
fantastic concert.
No commercial releases have ever been released on the JMDL for a sharing like that. Not until maybe just recently, when
Oh.
people are putting stuff out there that's like maybe after 99 years or whatever.
Oh, the
Yeah, no.
I'm shocked by bootlegs, and I would never collect bootlegs, and I have never duplicated anything for anyone else, and I would never condone that, because it takes money
Right.
away from the artist, except for the stuff I have. But that's-
Except for this, and you don't know no one about like Simon. Oh, did I say his name?
you didn't have to make mixtapes. Joni did a compilation every 6 months in the 2000s. Okay, Bob, your hand is up. Then we're gonna move on to the next one.
Well, all I'm going to say is, I was a runner for 45 years, and I didn't break any records, but I ran a bunch of 10Ks. I had some pretty good times. But now that I'm 65 and I had 7 bypasses in February, I know not to run anymore because I would suck at that. And so I would hope that anybody who realizes that they've been through stuff shouldn't do what they will suck at. So, like I said earlier, Joni will tarnish her legacy here forward with everything she puts out.
You're so wrong.
Because she no longer has the juice.
Well, we have 2 more compilations to go. Then I
So
think we
wrong
should talk
about
about
that.
present time. We will do present time.
Sorry.
But let's get through. Joni had a second ballet that she was working on about love. Instead of doing the ballet, she released a 4-disc set of songs that we've all had on a lot of other compilations. She added a trumpet to Borderline, right? And I think I bought this. I opened it up. I read her thing that she did, and then I put it on a shelf. And took it off the shelf for the first time today for this podcast. Does anyone have anything to say about Love Has Many Faces? Ruben. Oh,
yeah, this is one of those things. I eagerly anticipated it when it was announced. I bought a copy for me. I bought 2 or 3 other ones and sent them to people. I don't think I ever put it in the CD player because I'd heard it all before. And to be honest, I really had a hard time. It was apparent that she'd spent a lot of time sequencing it. And
right.
It did not make any sense to me, but I thought it was awesome that she did it, and more power to her. And when years later, when they released it on vinyl, I was the first in line to buy those because I thought it was such a great product. I am a completionist to a large extent, which I think is part of it. But again, it was kind of like Prairie Girl. I thought it was a classy, interesting addition to this series of releases. But I will say, I forget who mentioned it earlier, but with the addition of the track that was changed, was it Borderline that had the addition of a saxophone?
A trumpet, right?
It was a trumpet. That's right. It was really beautiful, but I think when you do that, you should make a note because it's not the original version. I get really sticky about that. I know with some of the Madonna tracks, Jeremy, I remember when they re-released those albums. I don't know, it's probably been 20 years now, but those
when they put them digitally, it's not the right versions.
They weren't the original versions. And
yeah, I hate that.
I'm a real stickler for that.
I hate that
because those versions are those versions, and these versions are these versions. And I think you should.
And the album should be the album. The album should be the album as it was released. Yeah.
Otherwise, it all just falls apart. And I thought it was really interesting that she tweaked that track like that and didn't really make much of a notice of it because it was not the original album track. It was great, but it should have been more, a bigger note should have been made of it.
I agree.
I'm done.
Now, before we have Chris and then Mark, but I do have a question. We have the 4 quartets, Birth of Rock and Roll Days, which is from Chinese Cafe. Love Has Many Faces is a song title. And then If You Want Me, I'll Be in the Bars, of course, from the last time I saw Richard. Act 2 is The Light is Hard to Find. What lyric is that from the song? Because I'm not placing that lyric.
The window.
The window.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Chris, then Mark.
Okay.
Then Sue.
Obviously, she was on a big high after she thought she must have considered the ballet Fiddle and the Drum to have been a huge success. I actually thought that, maybe she had the power to actually push this through to the point where when we saw Jean Grandma in Ottawa, I asked him to sign this for me. I don't think it's going to be produced ultimately. I tried really hard. I immersed myself in these 4 discs for quite some time to really try to find an arc thematically or musically that worked for it or that I could carry through. And maybe she has a vision for the dance that would somehow bring that together. And, she has amazed and surprised me in so many different ways over the decades that I don't count. I wouldn't say that it was impossible for her to do that here. I just can't come to any premonition as to how it would come together, which was disappointing for me because it's really ambitious to put an audience in a theater, whether or not you do it in 1 sitting or in 2 sittings for 4 hours. Man, you got to pay it off big time. And I don't see the arc here. I just don't see the arc.
And I'm looking at the track list. We have Sweet Sucker Dance from Mingus, followed by Lakota, followed by Cool Water, and then Amelia. I can't wrap my head around this little. Okay. We have Mark, and then Sue, then pause.
Well, like Chris said, it's really hard to make any kind of logical sequencing out of this and figure out what the arc is, what it's supposed to be saying. I think, wasn't she putting this together and found that she could not cut anything more out of it?
Yeah.
And I just wonder, I don't know. I wonder what her state of mind was like at the time. It just doesn't seem right somehow. That should be the case. I mean, I know she was trying to touch on all these different aspects of love, I would assume, but and I don't know if any of the rest of you follow Jean Grosmaitre's Facebook or anything like that, but he's posted pictures from like the David Bowie ballet that he did, and they're just amazing. I mean, the sets and the lights and everything in them. I don't know. It's just a pity that this fell flat, or it somehow just didn't come into being. And I know he wanted it too. He's very much a fan of hers. He loves her, I think. So it's too bad. The quality of the recordings is really nice. I mean, wasn't a lot of it remastered, or I think the whole thing was. So there's some really nice recording on there, but I don't know. It just didn't come together, and it's just too much.
I can see Joni now. She's like, I refuse to do this ballet about love if tax-free can't be in it.
Like Betty, I am just too much.
Okay, we have Sue, then pause.
Okay, this was another one of those that I never got. So I never got Travelogue, right? For some reason. I mean, that there was this period in my life where it was like the missing years, and so I kind of missed out on some of these things. So when I really wanted to get this box set. I was excited about it, and I bought it, and what happened to me was that I found out that I loved the travelogue tracks.
I
And
remember you saying that.
if I hadn't gotten this box set, I wouldn't have gone back and rediscovered some of the travelogue stuff. So and I remember that there was one side that I particularly loved. Might have been the side that Be Cool is on, but I don't know. I mostly listen to these type of CDs when I'm in my car. If I go on a trip or something, and it just sounds like a soundtrack to me, when I'm listening to it. So I don't know. I mean, I understand the whole thing about how it's all these songs were on the other compilations, and it's like, the big, repetitious just to get money or whatever. But as the way it hit me when I got it, I was kind of thinking about what other people were talking about before, about what new person would pick this up and listen to it and really enjoy it. I was just out of whack for a while, and then I got this box set, and I just felt like there was some of the music in there I just listened to with different ears or something. Especially the travelogue stuff was I think it was Be Cool, and what was the other one that I really loved? I can't remember. Oh, is it something from Wild Things Run Fast?
Moon at the Window?
No, it was like
Love?
You
Flat Tires?
Flat Tires. Yeah. I really thought the travelogue version was awesome.
It's interesting that she doesn't specify them as travelogue versions on the track list.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Like she did on the other ones.
Right. So I just have to say, I mean, I get what everybody's saying about the whole repetition thing and why do I have to buy another of these? I mean, I have all that music on. I have a hard drive on my Mac that has 7 days of music, and it has everything of Joni.
Is it the compilations from the 2000s? The 7 days of.
So yeah, so
I just want to say one more thing. I think this really meant something to her. I
Yeah.
don't see this as just a money grab. She wanted to put this out for whatever reason.
Well, she
It
wanted
meant
that ballet
something to
to
her.
happen.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
She wanted that ballet to happen.
Yeah, she wanted the ballet to happen. And I guess she had some kind of vision for it, but I don't know.
I like her little note that the track listing is off. Did you guys get that in yours?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The little mistake, the sorry note.
All right, pause.
Jeremy, thank you for doing this. I've enjoyed it so much. All these, every single album, but this this discussion has been particularly poignant for me because, oh my God, we're talking about. This is really mostly about record companies taking advantage of our queen, and so as an artist, if somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, do this and do that," and all this stuff, I bought most of it. There was one thing I'd never even seen that I never even seen that record.
This one, right?
So I learned something never saw it, and yet I was in Galway when the exhibition was there of all her photography, which was insane. And I got a tour by the curator. What I'm trying to say is, no matter what, I felt Joni Mitchell in my life, in her artistry, everything she's ever done, all these albums that she's had a thing in, I sort of feel what she's trying to say. And I'm not as have a big ego to say that I understand all of it, but she's driven the bus all these years. And hey, I'll be a passenger till the day I die. And I'm going to buy that motherfucking CD from Folk Festival, and I'll be there at the Gorge, and I'll be the first one to buy the new record of new material with other people interpreting her songs. And that's the next part of her thing. She's going to teach some other songwriters and some other artists how to be artists and composers and greats. And thank you, Joni Mitchell. Thank you.
Does anyone have anything on Love Has Many Faces before we move on to just a couple more things? All right. Well, then in 2015, I believe, a year after Love Has Many Faces, our beloved Joni had a terrible medical incident with a double aneurysm. So I remember I would go on the internet almost every day just trying to get news. And for years, like one of my friends ran into her in LA and I said, well, can Joni talk? Because we didn't know for years if she could talk. For years we didn't see her. And then in 2019, when she had her 75th birthday, was that one of the first times that she really, really went out? Because that's the next Joni Mitchell product that came out, was the Joni 75 album, which was the album of the concert. I don't really have much to say about it.
I have a signed copy.
Was this good?
Producer.
Did you guys like this?
By the artist. Is that an album?
Yeah, this is from Record Store
the
Day.
CD and the DVD. That's vinyl.
Yeah.
Look
at that. Look at the gatefold. Isn't that nice?
Oh my God.
The gatefold was gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's from what year is it? What is that photo?
75. We were there, man. I sat next.
Yes.
Norman Seif did
those. No, show me the inside cover of that album.
The flower
from
dress,
that-
Norman C.
From that video that Norman Safe did, where she's
Oh.
dancing against the
Oh.
Don Juan Reckless Daughter. It was against Dreamland, I think.
Yeah, this was a
Yeah.
really nice. This was a record store day release, so the vinyl was only a limited edition record store day. And I just remember how exciting it was to even have, even though Joni didn't sing on it, to have something new with a new picture of Joni Mitchell. Like this was her then. I just thought it was awesome to have it in my hands. Was great. So this leads us to today. And pause. The moment has come. Forgive me for being a bitch earlier, but I just got that queen in me. I can't help myself. But now chronologically, let's predict this. Like Paz said, let's predict this Newport album. We're going to talk about if it's going to be good or if it's going to suck. And I think the two stars of today's shows, Chris and Bob, should start this discussion.
Oh boy.
Wow. Well,
Chris,
Well, I mean, you know, we
suck,
all,
is it going to be great or is it going to suck?
what
Wow.
the Newport? What do you think of the
That's
Newport
the only
performance?
choices? Oh,
Well,
man.
no, of course not.
No, I gotta say, I think that there are clearly challenges that she had to rise to that day, and I think that there is going to be packaging of the love and support somehow that we don't have here to respond to yet.
Right.
That is
Fair enough.
I think that's going to make a difference with the context that we apply perhaps to it. Now, it may not be where Bob, because he's all about the music and wants the music to speak to him, and it will or it won't based on what they can do from a post-production standpoint to make her sound perhaps as clear and as vibrant and as maybe even as more youthful in a way.
Editing.
Through magic, studio magic. That hasn't yet been applied. I mean, we've only seen little YouTube video,
Yeah.
some of which have come, most of which have come straight out of somebody's phone.
Yeah.
So I mean, and so to be honest, I don't know that we've really, got a good sense on what's really there. So I'm open to it. Absolutely. I think that there are bits and pieces among those songs that, I can, throw away and say, yeah, I really don't need to hear her sing Poison Ivy, but I will love to immerse myself in that reading of Summertime she did, and so that's, I mean, it doesn't seem to me like there's an entire full-length show there. It might be kind of like the length of an EP, and maybe it'll be released with something else that we don't know. Maybe it's one or more of those other artists who were part of the jam interpreting other pieces. I think that there's so many ways that could be packaged and served to us to make it something really wonderful and special that I'm looking forward to it.
I wonder if it's going to be a digital only release, if there's going to be some physical copies. All right. So from the other side, Bob, what's your anticipation of this release?
Well, if Joni's happy and out and about and performing and having a good time, more power to her. That's great. I certainly don't want another studio record from her. I think I was crying like a baby, needed a bath towel when she sang Both Sides Now.
Yeah,
like all of us did, I'm sure.
My goodness.
Yeah. I didn't listen to all of the tracks. I think most of them were embellished by other people.
You know what? I probably shouldn't put this out on the podcast, but I will say it anyway. For God's sakes, mute out Brandy Carlisle saying, "Tell him, Joni." Oh, tell him. Like, I don't need that. I don't need that. Joni's just let her tell people. We don't need the narration.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Chris Christopherson sang "A Case of You" at Joni 75 with Brandy Carlisle out there. And, Chris Christopherson should not have been there. He shouldn't have been singing, like he had 2 feet and 1 arm in the grave, trying to mumble through that song. It was sad. And Brandy Carlisle's propping him up, trying to sing the words behind him. If that's what her role is, if that's what she's doing, then I don't want to see her do that with Joni. Not with Joni Mitchell. I've got too much love for the woman. I have too much admiration for her legacy. What she means to me, what she means to all of us, what she means to music in general. She's, one of the finest composers, certainly of our lifetime, certainly the 20th century.
If not the finest, right?
If not the finest.
Yeah.
I put her and Stephen Sondheim and Leonard Bernstein in a little thimble, and those are my favorite composers of the 20th century, to at least the latter half of the 20th century. So yeah, I don't want to see her propped up by people. I want to remember her as I remember her.
So can I just interject something here? So at the 75th, I had a different perspective of Brandy Carlisle supporting Chris Christopherson. And I just recently found out that Chris Christopherson just did not have Alzheimer's or dementia that was affecting him at that time. It was Lyme disease. And so his participation for me was a blessing, because I really appreciate him as an artist, as not as much as I do Joni Mitchell. Hello. However, his version there and the ultimate culmination of what came from that was very moving for me. And Brandy's support to him was equally as supportive. I also felt like, at the time, I felt like, why is she there? She's like, what is she doing? She's whispering in his ear. But it was really kind of flawless for me as a performance, and I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, you have to know when your time is up, right? So last night I watched the film The Eyes of Tammy Faye with Jessica
I've seen that,
Chastain. If you haven't seen it, she is phenomenal as Tammy Faye Baker.
Yep.
She's
What
phenomenal.
channel is that on?
I got it on DVD. I'm not sure. I didn't. So, I got it on DVD off of Netflix. But my point is, she did not know when she was past her cell date. And so she's called in to perform concerts, and people are poking at her, and looking at her and laughing at her, because she's singing these songs like she was what she was, and she was no longer that.
And so by your last transmission, you said that you don't want to hear anything else from Joni Mitchell original. After all she's done.
No, of course I don't. Of course I don't. She should rest on what she's done. She should celebrate what she's done.
Yeah, but you don't think she has anything to share to anybody else, Bob?
No, of course not.
Brandy,
not as a performer.
Brandy's learned anything from Joni Mitchell?
Well, if she has, let Brandy write and perform and take that forward.
Let me just tell you that an artist that I represent is going to open for Brandy Carlisle at the Gorge on the 9th of June. And predictably, she may be in the Joni Jam, which would be great, because my artist is a young artist. She's just coming out. She has no clue of who the magnitude of Joni Mitchell, other than the fact that what she knows, which is limited.
Right.
But for me, Joni, until she drops dead, until she's no longer on this earth, her validity is astronomical. Verídico. In Spanish and in English. Just saying. She will continue to change our lives until she checks the fuck out. Sorry. That's the way I feel.
Speaking of checking out, I'm checking out. I love y'all.
Oh, love you, Bob.
What I said. I have my personal integrity, which I have to stand by. I love you, all of y'all, and your all's opinions are valid. Of course, love Joni as much as all of y'all.
We're having a conversation. Don't check out.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna be wrapping up soon, but let me just say, then we'll do Jim, then Chris, then we'll wrap it up. When I think of like someone like Johnny Cash, who kept recording till the end with Rick Rubin producing, I thought some of his later work was really, really emotionally bare and beautiful. So, gorgeous. If Joni Mitchell maybe could pull out something like that, I'm interested to hear it.
That's a great point. But your point is that that Johnny Cash submitted to a producer, and Joni won't do that.
Joni won't do that. Yeah,
and she won't. So don't predict the future. Expect awesomeness, because she is awesome. We're talking about Joni here.
All right, we got Chris and then Jim. Then we're gonna wrap up the Joni Mitchell Phonogenics series.
Really quickly though. I have no reason to distrust Brandi Carlile. And what Brandi Carlile said was, Joni has more to say. Now, one of the things that I can clearly point to her track record of is that the woman has been really, if not prescient, at least so finely attuned in her bullshit detector to know what's going to be important and for us to warn us to keep our eye on. Now, if that is even a small part of what Brandi is hinting toward, I can't imagine any time that we've lived through our journey together with Joni Mitchell where we've needed that more. So in that regard, I am really, really looking forward to something happening at the Gorge and beyond.
Even before. All
right. Jim?
Sorry.
Jim, then Ruben.
Okay. If she has something more to say, and I don't really care who produces her, so if Brandi wants to bring in her band and set up in the living room and make her comfortable and she's got some new songs, then I'll buy them.
Yeah.
That said, I think that what I saw at Newport works best as a YouTube video, because the thing that I really loved about it was that she was being supported by a lot of love, and she was accepting a lot of love. And she had broken out of this thing where, I never got the props that I deserve, and, the industries and the toilet and all that. It was just like, Joni wrapped in a warm blanket. And I still haven't warmed up to Brandi Carlile, but
go see her live.
She did provide,
go see her live.
She did provide a very warm,
get the audio book.
They'll let her, be in front of a camera and be in front of a microphone and be in front of an audience and all that stuff.
Right.
But
Jim, can I tell you one thing about her?
Okay. Which
is it
Joni or Brandi?
No, Brandi. Just for everybody, because I feel this thing against Brandi from so many people. And let me just tell you something. I worked with her years ago on the Preservation Hall Jazz Band's Preservation album, where she sang us one song. She was a child. She was just new, and nobody knew who she was. And she was so gracious, such a nice person. And then fast forward to my life, in the past 18 months of knowing who she is, mostly through Chris Kokoro. Thank you, Chris. But then mostly through Joy Clark, who is playing with an artist named Allison Russell. And I love I love Alison Russell so much. I saw her at Keith Richards' show with Chris in New York City for Love NYC. Is that the name of the thing, right, Chris? That's the first time I experienced her. And at that time, she had already started working with Joy. And then I saw her at with Sue in Las Vegas for the gala for honoring Joni Mitchell. And she just crushed me. And so then fast forward to a couple of months ago, I went to the Gorge to see Joy play at Red Rocks, a place I'd never been. All my travels throughout this world, I'd never been to Red Rocks. And it was a Brandi Carlile show, and she's been supporting Alison Russell in a way that I cannot describe to you how any upcoming artist as gifted as Alison Russell is to get the tour support from an artist like Brandi Carlile.
For stature.
Unbelievable. And then residual down to my artist, who is Joy Clark, who I'm committed to help her. And oh my God, she's grown so much this year. And she knew Joni Mitchell, who she was, but only a couple songs. But now she's learning all this from me. And so as far as I'm concerned, all this stuff accumulates to educate people younger than us to know who Joni Mitchell is. And then ultimately, thank you, Brandi Carlile, for doing that with the platform that you have, with this Bramley thing. And oh my God. So
I do
sorry.
think Brandi Carlile, I've yet to hear one song of hers that I thought was good. Okay, Ruben.
You're not alone.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry.
I kind of agree with you, Jeremy. Brandy has not grabbed me for some reason, and it's not any shade on her at all.
Yeah.
I've listened to.
I don't want to yuck anyone's yum. I'm sorry.
No, I don't either. And I just she hasn't.
Let's go see her live, baby. Come on.
Music hasn't hit me. I would go see her live just to see, but I'm eternally grateful that she's had a huge hand in this next phase Joni's in. I just think that's awesome. More love to her for that. And the Newport thing for me was just this wonderful magic surprise. And I sat there with all of you weeping in front of my computer that day because she turned back up and was singing again, and we never thought we'd hear it. And it was just tears in my eyes talking about it. It was just so fucking awesome. And
ginormous.
I hope that this continues. I would love it if Joni pulled another album out of her hat. I would be first in line to buy it. And I
want new music.
It's going to be that fine white ass.
I understand where Bob's coming from, but I'm a little more forgiving, I think. And I'm glad.
Optimistic is the word.
Yeah, and I'm just glad there's some more juice in there that she's willing to squeeze out. I just think she can do no wrong as far as I'm concerned, and I mean that in a good way.
She's made some mistakes, right?
I truly believe if anyone can do it, it's Joni Mitchell. If anyone can have a career resurgence and do like 3 more great fucking albums, it's Joni Mitchell.
Listen, look at Cohen.
I want it to be good, she said to Anthony Mason. I wanted it to be good.
Yeah.
And I think she really means that. She surprised herself a bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't perfect. We all know that. We all witnessed it.
Yeah.
But through the magic of
it was magical
studio and stuff, they'll polish it up. They'll polish it up.
Hi, Jim.
I'm thinking something that's been planned and that's been rehearsed and plotted out could be phenomenal. Could be truly phenomenal because she's still got the voice. Maybe it's not the soprano
different voice.
She's had a different voice for damn years.
Different voice.
It keeps different.
Her phrasing is amazing. Her phrasing is amazing. It's not funny. But
sorry, folks. We love the greatest artist of all time.
Yep.
Better than Paul and Joan and Prince and Madonna and Stevie Nicks and everybody on planet Earth. She is
Everybody else on Phonogenics.
It reminds me of a wall that was painted in Soho and was up for decades, and it was an artist named Rene, and he wrote this large wall, "I am the greatest artist." And that was his art. And it stayed there for decades.
All right, Jim has been patient. He's had something to say. So let's Jim.
Let's see, what was I gonna say?
Oh shit.
Oh yeah. I admit I'm one of those people that, well, Michael, you're a little long-winded tonight, but
Thank you, because I'm usually quiet.
I know, poor Michael. I yelled at him.
Please yell at me, please.
I can't
got
believe
beat
we're
up
taping
all
this
afternoon. I was beaten to a pulp because I got a show on Saturday. Whatever.
Okay.
That's-
Okay.
Yeah, beat, please.
No, Jim.
I have the floor. Damn it.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so anyway, I admit I've been one of those people that was really cool on Brandi Carlile, and I've never listened to a song all the way through, but I continue to give her that I realize that there's probably something there that I've been missing up till now, and when I realized she was the same person who pulled Chris Christopherson through that performance, I was like, well, this is what she does. She's doing the same for Joni that she did for Chris. And after that, I realized, well, wait a minute, there's also a precedent for this. When Woody Guthrie was in the nursing home, some dusty guy went from Hibbing, Minnesota down to the nursing home to visit him, and he didn't drag him out on stage, but he did bond with Woody Guthrie, and he went a long way after that too. So I might be missing
Dolly Parton.
Was it Bob?
Brandi is helping artists.
Dolly Parton does not need Brandi Carlile's help. I am sorry. That's where I draw the line.
One of the reasons she decided to accept the award from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was because Brandi stepped in.
I'm not giving that one to Brandi.
Wow, there's just like some brandiness here. Wow, jeez.
I will give Tanya Tucker.
And I didn't come to this thing as a Brandi fan or anything. It's just that I appreciate the fact that she brought our queen back to us.
Let me say publicly that I do not think Joni Mitchell would have had the recovery he had it not been for the love of Brandi Carlile. Like, I absolutely think that, and I absolutely do not have to like her music because of that. Okay.
Have we ever heard Joni record "Summertime" before?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
On Herbie's album.
Gershwin.
On Herbie's album.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay.
Gershwin's.
Okay.
Gershwin's.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Sue
there was another Gershwin one on the same album.
Sue has been patiently waiting to say something. Sue.
So the way I describe
You don't look that patient, Sue. Just saying. Sorry.
So the way I describe Brandi Carlile's relationship with Joni Mitchell is she is Joni Mitchell's Juan Hamilton.
Cougar.
Do you know who Juan Hamilton is? He was the assistant to Georgia O'Keeffe.
Wow.
And Georgia O'Keeffe painted into her 90s. And Juan was her assistant, and she was madly in love with him, even though he was like 60 years younger than her.
Juan also took control of the finances.
Well, I don't want to go there.
Oh, Jesus.
I don't want to go there.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I'm just trying to make a point.
I'll just tell you that ain't happening because if you look at the ticket sales, it goes to a completely different thing than Brandi. So.
Okay.
Well, anyway, I'm not talking about money. I'm talking about
spirit.
Yeah, spirit.
Yep.
How the artist has longevity and they need help, okay, because they're old. But she still created into her 90s, and I believe that Joni in her, still has like art in her. I mean, I can't even believe how incredible her recovery is. That little video they had when she was walking down the street with her
Oh, so cute.
helpers. I mean, it was just so wonderful, you know.
So do you think we'll have Joni? Will we have Joni 85? Do you think?
Yes, of course. Her parents lived to be in their hundreds.
Hello.
The other thing I want to say is that when I first heard of Brandi Carlile, I listened to the album, like the album that was the big one. I can't remember what the name of it was, but
She had a big album?
She had a hit song.
Oh,
She had a
geez.
hit?
Jeremy,
Hit
really,
song.
please.
This song
She
was
ain't Madonna,
incredibly well written. That's the first thing I thought about this song. It was beautiful
That
and it
shit's
was
well
really
written.
well written. So
The joke.
I
Talking about the joke.
myself,
Yeah.
I myself am not a super fan of Brandi Carlile. I appreciate the fact that she is extremely talented and can write. And she actually wrote a book too.
It's a fantastic. I keep telling everybody to get the audio book. When you hear her,
I know you told me that too.
And hear her talk
everybody
about it.
get it because
But-
it'll explain why.
Chris, I'll get the audio book once you watch Shadows and Light.
And Chris Caccaro gets a commission every time.
I'm sorry, Sue, please finish. I'm sorry.
Yes, Sue.
This is the last thing I want to say. The only reason why I'm not 100% a fan of hers is because I don't like country music at all.
Oh.
Now, I know she's more like Americana, but she does have a bit of a twang to me, which is fine. I'm not saying
What do you
that
think of
that's
the
bad.
twins? What do you think of the twins?
I don't know much about the twins. I know that
The
they
twins
play-
is the guitar player and the bass player behind her.
Yeah, I know
And
that.
they bring the country for me with her.
Okay.
I think she's more diverse. This is my interpretation. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
But let me tell you something. I saw her 2 nights in a row. Both nights were different. I experienced the first night with Jahida Esperanza. She's one of
Who
the
we love. We love Jahida.
You know Jahida, right?
We
And
love
then
Jahida.
Next time, the talented and beautiful Mr. Les Irvin was my
We love
date.
Les.
And oh my God, and they were both so different. The nights we had, we had Allison Russell the first night, and then we had Lucius,
Oh, Lucius, yeah, right.
and then also we got the Indigo Girls the second night, which I know, Mr. Lamadou, you're a big fan of those guys. Oh my God.
They have the same harmony in every song.
It's transcendental.
Exactly. Thank you. No.
Same damn.
No.
Okay,
So
I'm
many-
gonna
many-
wrap things up in a moment because I want a cheeseburger from Wawa really bad. I'm really hungry.
And they
I'm gonna
closing soon.
I'm gonna leave you guys with a
10:30.
visual.
It's 11:30.
I'm gonna leave you with a visual. That's my final thought.
My timers are turning off here.
My visual, my final thought on Brandi Carlile right there.
Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
Jesus. A
Good
real
gowns. Good gowns.
Good gowns.
Great gown.
I didn't hear Aretha say a damn word about Brandi Carlile, Jeremy. So you can put on your fucking gowns and go tritz down to the burger place.
Let me recap tonight's episode.
Oh God.
Bob and Chris head to head. I got called a filthy whore.
I missed that part.
I told
Can you
Paz I
replay
was
that right now?
I told Paz I was regaining control of my podcast. And Mark just told me to trickle down to the fucking burger place.
In your gowns.
This is a great way to end it, right?
Hey,
And this concludes the
Call
Phonogenics
call
101.
Oprah.
Thanks, boss. I'm
This
out.
will return.
So I will see you guys in April when we discuss
April?
archives. We're gonna take a little break. I'm gonna take a little break, and then if you guys want to jump on Zoom and just chat for a little bit, though, I would love
that'd be
to.
great. I'd
That
miss
would be
you.
nice. That would be nice.
Let's do one before Christmas because I'd love to see you guys for the holidays. And I need to beg someone to fucking share a hotel room with
I'm
me.
gonna call Brandy and see if she can be here with us. Okay.
Yeah,
So
do it.
That would be awesome. That would be awesome.
Brandy Carlisle?
Yeah.
yes.
Tell
Get
her,
Joy to come too.
but she has to leave the Bramley home.
You know, this is like the Prince podcast because I said so many bad things about Wendy and Lisa, but I actually kind of I like them.
Wendy
I do
and
like
Lisa
them.
are in the band.
I love Wendy and Lisa, but when
Hello.
Prince died, they kind of showed up. Anyway,
Sue, help me here.
Yeah,
Sue.
they're in the band.
I love Wendy and Lisa.
No, you're
They
going
were
to see
at
them
the
at
gala.
Joni.
They're gonna be there at
They
Joni's
made
gig.
gala. Sue, help me out here.
Yeah, I know. We were there.
I can't wait.
Wendy played every piece of music that Wendy played was in Joni's tuning and her shapes and everything.
That's amazing.
And I went up to her after the show and said, "Hey, I'm with Sue Tierney.
You fucking actually
She's one of the guys. She's one of the people that
Who?
did this stuff for the archives and stuff." She goes, "Oh well, I got them from Joel Bernstein."
I
And
got
said,
them from
"Oh,
Joel Bernstein.
excuse me."
I got them from
When they're half wrong.
Did Joel get them from you,
Are you
Sue?
kidding me?
No, he was Joni's guitar tech all those years ago. So he saved all her tuning. She
Well,
didn't really remember.
excuse us, Wendy.
Right.
Our beef with Wendy and
no,
Lisa
you
was
didn't.
when Prince died. The Revolution announced the tour 2 hours later. It's like they already had the.
Jeremy.
It's like they already had the publicity photos ready. Yeah, who called me? Somebody.
Lisa, she played all that crazy shit that Prince had, the synthesizer shit.
Yeah.
This woman sat behind a grand piano, and other than Herbie Hancock
Right.
or maybe John Legend sitting behind a grand piano, she articulated all those piano parts.
Yeah.
Every bit of that concert was
Amazing.
unbelievable. Please, if anybody releases an album, I could give up the
Yeah, the music
the Newport thing. Please,
The John
release
Batiste
that
medley.
album. Yes.
How about the John Batiste medley
please
of
release that
Shine
video.
and Down to You?
Yeah, I love Wendy and Lisa.
That again.
Ridiculous.
Snarkiness aside, they're fucking amazing musicians, and their actual albums are really good.
Mhm.
Yes,
Unlike
indeed.
Brandy Carlisle's. No, I'm just kidding. I never even listened to any of her albums. Okay, you guys,
I
are we
don't
all still
own a Brandy
friends?
Carlisle album.
Of course.
Are we all still friends?
I'm going to buy them tomorrow, though.
Are
Just
we off the
like you.
podcast now, or is this just
No, we're
private, or-
still on. Let's.
Still
You know what?
Are we
Let's
still
pause
on?
it.
I thought we were off.
No, this has been on the whole
Oh,
time.
shit.
Brandy
I wouldn't have
Carlisle's
said-
gonna kill
Okay,
me.
so never mind.
Okay, I'm gonna pause. Then we're still gonna talk for 10 seconds.
Okay.
Let me just say, oh, what an episode! What an episode this has been. And I don't have the time to go back and edit it, so it just has to be what it is.
Please don't. Please
Yeah.
don't.
Please
I
don't.
don't
It's
regret
like
a single thing I said, or a single thing that you said, or Bob said, or whatever.
well,
And Bob had to
I
go
do
to-
feel like Brandy Carlisle is a real person, so I hate for her to listen and I never
Yeah.
met her, and I'm we're just talking about public figures here. So,
Right.
girl, if you want to join us, we're meeting as friends. And she probably wouldn't like my music either because it's really not that good. But anyway, let's finish up this Joni Mitchell series that we started in January 2020, and we went through every album, and now we even talked about Love Has Many Faces. I mean, we covered everything. We're gonna come back and do the archives next year. If anyone's still listening now, you're awesome if you made it this far. And does anyone have any final
Can we
thoughts?
start over?
Can we start over?
Can we start it over, please? Because
Yeah, we should. We should
first
start
half.
over from the beginning.
Oh Lord, no. I'm like, oh no. I have so many. I want to do Kate Bush, Tina Marie.
Oh, let's do Kate
Carly
Bush
Simon.
next.
Tina Marie. Wow.
Yeah, let's do Kate Bush. So I love you guys. To the people of Patreon, thanks for donating. Sue, you were one of my first Patreon subscribers, so thank you. And I think Ruben, you're on there, right? Mark, almost everybody. So thank you guys. You're keeping the podcast afloat because it costs money to host it on all these platforms where everyone's listening to us everywhere, except for Brandy Carlisle because I run my mouth too much. And I got called a dirty whore tonight. Does anyone have any final thoughts I want to say before you hit pause and end this train wreck of a
Don't hit pause. Please don't hit pause. Please don't hit pause. Jesus.
I love you,
Christ.
Jeremy.
I love you guys. I'm gonna go get a cheeseburger in my gowns.
Paradise.
Oh, I love you.
Jeremy. Jeremy.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I love you guys. Let's
Love you,
meet.
Joni Mitchell.
And most of all, we love you, Joni Mitchell. I'm gonna pause. Let's say goodbye to each other.